What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Let the Madness Begin headquarters. This is LTMB Live. I'm Will Gaylord.
I'm Mike White.
What's going on? Glad everybody has joined us for this broadcast. Tuesday, April 24th, is it? Yep. The year's just going by, man. Almost out of April. But we have a lot to talk about tonight. We have a lot of issues to get to. We're going to give it just a minute or so. Make sure that people are, able to get into the stream and watch what's going on. We are starting a new thing on, it's not new for YouTube. We're broadcasting on Periscope for the first time. So,
yeah, you know how it is when we start stuff new.
Yeah, we have no idea what's going on and how this is working. I have no idea what's going on. I see nothing.
I don't really know how to read it right now. So we live.
Yeah, I guess I assume that we are live on Periscope, but I don't even think I have the app on my phone, so I can't even check.
Yeah, because Facebook ain't even treating us right. So.
Right. So we figure we try something else. But on Periscope, I believe you can, because people can, put comments in, like they can type stuff, but you would have to be able to see it some way.
It would be pointless if you couldn't see it. You know what I'm saying? It would be pointless to not be able to see live comments during the stream. That kind of defeats the purpose of the kind of live streaming platform.
Again, we have no idea what's going on Periscope, so I guess after the show we'll see what's going on with we'll figure it out if it was actually successful or not.
I don't think it's taking as much computer power either. It doesn't look like it is.
It doesn't look like it. Whatever. Anyway, hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody had a good weekend. What's up, Nicholas, Endo, Warren, Jose, Grandma Christine? What's going on, everybody? Just to right at the front. Oh, you know what? Before that, I just saw a news alert saying that Meek Mill might be released soon. He was granted bail. So he might be actually getting out of jail.
Look, man, see, the problem is I just don't like them using prominent examples of, examples like, rap stars or any kind of celebrity as some sort of poster child of why certain criminal justice reform measures need to be taken, because the whole thing surrounding Meek Mill is I guess the long arm of the law's overreach as far as his probation goes and how it's excessive. It may be true. It may be true, but I just find it very problematic that he is being used as the example. Why we gotta focus on Meek Mill when there's thousands of other cases.
The one positive though is that he has a voice, that he's prominent. So maybe because of him, he will draw attention to the widespread problem of people that don't have voices.
I'm hoping that's
getting abused the same way.
I'm hoping that's kind of the result of it.
He's in the right city as well.
Philly. Philly, right?
Yeah, he's in the right
that's
city.
That's his hometown.
Yeah. So, we've talked about that progressive DA, Larry Krasner. So he's in the right city to, so that he can be potentially getting out soon. But yeah, that just highlights a problem that's all across this country, even in Philly. Also, I think this was last week. This was after we did the show on Thursday. I'm not sure if it was Thursday night or Friday, but there was a CNN article, a CNN hit piece, really. We can call it a hit piece. The title of it was Exclusive. YouTube ran ads from hundreds of brands on extremist channels. I'm sure a lot of people have heard about this article, even read this article. There's been a lot of commentary on this article. CNN, in this article, they detailed that there have been many channels that have been promoting hate, promoting pedophilia, bigotry, conspiracy theories.
It highlighted like neo-Nazi sites, white supremacist sites,
right?
It also highlighted the premier conspiracy vixen, I call him.
Alex Jones.
Yeah.
But it highlighted that on those types of channels, advertisers ads, these companies' ads were being promoted on their channel, so they were bringing awareness to this situation. So as a way to, I guess, inform these advertisers that they would probably want to distance themselves with these channels, or maybe even distance themselves with YouTube, because we have to understand, one, CNN is a competitor of YouTube, so they have every reason in the world to try to kind of chip away at the, I guess, at the reach of, or at the success of YouTube. Now, I'm not going to say that they're like the information that they put in that article was wrong per se, because YouTube has even admitted that as well. They've deleted certain channels because of certain views that they've espoused on their channels. So in some of these instances, it's rightfully so, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But in some of them, they're not. You know, there are certain channels we have heard that have been censored and not rightfully so. The issue with this is that at the very last sentence was about Jimmy Dore. And I know last week we did a video about Jimmy Dore and how he was talking about marijuana. Now that criticism, I believe, was warranted, and I think we stand beside that. I mean, that criticism was warranted because he made a...
We felt he was being misleading.
Yeah.
A lot of people felt he was being, I guess, using hyperbole as a device, but we didn't agree with that because of the reactions from the audience did not indicate that they believed it was hyperbole. Yeah. So we felt the need to kind of address it, because it was kind of a... To us, it was an empty commentary that left too many doors open for, like, some, I don't know. We noticed that it encouraged people to actually believe in the misinformation. So
yeah, it seems just like it was fabricated to hit the Democratic Party. That's why we had issue with it, and that's why we made a video about it. But like I said, that was fair criticism. This criticism from CNN was absolutely not fair. In the last sentence of that article, it said, quote, ads also appeared on the Jimmy Dore channel, a far-left YouTube channel that peddles conspiracy theories such as the idea that Syrian chemical weapons attacks are hoaxes.
End story.
Yes, there was nothing else
other than that.
No.
They basically labeled him a conspiracy channel because of how he, I guess, viewed that one issue. And as far as what I heard him say, he didn't have some sort of alternative version. He just didn't believe in, like, I guess the mainstream narrative.
Right, true, yeah. But well, he questioned who was really responsible for this attack, because, or if there was an attack. He said that the United States response, France and the UK as well, came before the investigators had a chance to go in there and actually see what happened, if anything happened. Yeah. So that's not pushing a conspiracy theory. That's just saying, let's just see what happened. Like the case with the Iraq war too, right? It's kind of similar to that. So I haven't heard him just saying, yeah, it was a hoax. And that, like I said, that was a fair analysis of what Jimmy Dore did. And by lumping Jimmy Dore into this article, like you said, you're pushing him, or you're framing him as a conspiracy theorist, but also by associating him with pedophilia and hate and all that,
bigotry and white supremacists.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, I think CNN understands that Jimmy Dore doesn't represent any of those things, but they know that all of those views and those ideas and those other channels are very like reactionary.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess people have a certain like idea about him, and that was the purpose of kind of juxtaposing Jimmy with those people. And I don't know about you, but like, if you're looking for some sort of Alex Jones version on the left, like, and you pick Jimmy, like that to me, that just seemed very purposeful.
Yeah, it was unfair. It was very unfair criticism.
An extremist? Wow.
Nah,
we may disagree with Jimmy on some things now and then, but to call Jimmy extremist?
Yeah. We may say that he misled people in that one particular instance, but to say that he's an extremist and he's he's likened to Alex Jones or people that push pedophilia and hate. Come on, you're doing way too much. But again, this was purposeful. They had a mission, and that was to hit YouTube and hit a channel like Jimmy Dore's. Whatever.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know, man. It was just, it was kind of, it was a low blow.
Oh yeah, it was unfair. It was cutting off the kneecaps, or
And my thing is actually, as far as like the other angle about this story, about the ads unknowingly being run, or these corporations saying that these ads were unknowingly being run. You know what I think? I think that's a bunch of BS. I think they knew what channels their ads were being run on. It's just that they don't care.
Well, the thing about that too is that, of course, YouTube has an algorithm. So there's way too many channels, way too many ads to be like, okay, this ad is going to be on this channel and this video. There's like way too many. So I think sometimes there are ads that do get associated with a video that might be about bigotry, might be about hate and stuff like that.
And it might have to do with a keyword in the
tag. It could.
And the keyword in the tag or a keyword in the title. So I guess the way the YouTube algorithm works is they apply just a certain ad. They already have a bunch of corporations that they already have commercials ready to go.
Right.
And so it may be misapplied. And so some, commercials may air on some channels that these corporations don't like. But I'm under the impression that based on the history of most of these corporations, that they probably don't care until somebody brings it up.
True.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. All right, let's move on. All right, so let's get to the real first story. Okay. So early Sunday morning, 4 people were killed when the gunmen came into a Nashville area Waffle House and opened fire. The suspect was 29-year-old Travis Reinking, and he was arrested on Monday after about 35 hours of a manhunt. Reinking did not resist when when a detective drew a gun on him. He was taken. Well, I won't say he was taken without incident, because he did. There was this scene where he was seemingly trying to get himself killed. He was pointing something. It could have been a gun at the officer, but the officer did take him in without shooting at him. So he didn't give a statement when he was taken in. He requested a lawyer. This whole thing transpired it was a little bit before 3:30 a.m. early Sunday morning. And Reinking arrived at the Waffle House in his pickup truck, waited a few minutes, got out and approached the Waffle House. Outside of the Waffle House, he shot 2 people that were standing out there. He killed 2 people. Then he proceeded into the Waffle House where he killed 2 other people. There was a moment where a customer by the name of James Shaw Jr., he was taking cover and he was just trying to kind of track his movements. And he noticed that he had stopped shooting. I believe he thought that he was reloading. So at that time, he took this moment to rush the gunman, rush Reinking, and he was able to wrestle the gun away from him. It was a assault type weapon, assault type rifle. So he wrestled it away from him and he threw it over the counter. At that point, the suspect fled on foot, so he didn't take his truck with him. So that's what prompted the manhunt that lasted like about 35 hours. So there was 4 people. Like I said, there was 4 people that were killed in this another heinous attack. Reinking, it seems like Reinking had his firearms taken from him before this attack. Because of, I believe this was about the White House incident.
Yeah, he went into like a restricted area,
right? And
he requested, like, I guess once he was approached for being in the restricted area by Secret Service or something.
Yeah.
He explained that he was a sovereign citizen and he wanted to speak to the president.
Yes.
Of course, demanded. Of course,
yeah.
That's going to shoot you. That's going to shoot your threat level up, or the threat level up, and that's going to shoot you up to, I guess the priority list of people they need to talk to.
Right.
And so they detained him and questioned him.
Right. And then after that incident, that's what prompted law enforcement officials to
take his firearms away. Yeah, take his firearms away.
Yeah, and I believe there were 4 different firearms that they took away. But they suspect that his father, whose name is Jeffrey, they suspect that he actually gave him back the firearms, and that's what allowed him to commit this attack on Waffle House. So there's an investigation into the father right now to determine if that's exactly what happened. But it seems like that's probably what happened.
And what are the chances that his father has different views than he does? You see what I'm saying? That's what I'm asking. What's the chances that his father is not aware of his views, and maybe his father is his father a sovereign citizen as well?
I don't know. It seems like this guy had what you could consider a complicated past because, again, he had that run-in with law enforcement because of the White House incident. I believe it's being reported too that a week before this incident, he stole a car from a dealership. He was able to obtain a key fob, I think a BMW key fob, and he led officers on a short, high-speed chase, I believe, and they recovered the car at his apartment complex, but I guess he was nowhere to be found. They didn't know who did it, so he wasn't arrested at that time. They just found the car unoccupied. I believe there was another incident last year in August, where he drove up to a squad car, and he asked an officer about filing a report. He said to the sergeant that people were, quote, tapping into his computer, into his phone, barking like dogs outside his home. He said that he felt like he was being watched all the time. And he said that this all started after he began writing Taylor Swift. He also said that he felt that Taylor Swift was stalking him.
So he had kind of signs of being like a paranoid schizophrenic.
Something, man.
So this might be a kind of the proper situation to bring in, I guess, the mental health topic. And not just the fact that he was a part of sovereign citizens, and maybe him gravitating towards sovereign citizens probably had to do with his mental state and not the other way around.
Mm-hmm. Yes, this would be the appropriate situation to talk about that. And again, if it obviously you felt like this, I mean, he was dangerous enough to take his guns away from him. Mm-hmm. Now, is it the best course of action to give those guns to his father?
Exactly.
Is that really the best course of action?
Even if like you're not giving the guns specifically to him, directly to him, you kind of have to foresee that it's possible that if you're given the guns to the father, it could make its way back to the son.
Even if they don't live together, is it possible that
he can go over there?
Yeah, he has a key to his father's house, maybe, or something like that. It's very possible he can get his hands on those guns.
I'm curious as to what they actually found out about him, during their questioning, because you already know what they're doing. Like when the police pulls you over, they're already running your tags. They're not just pulling you over they don't just pull you over for violation and they get out the car. They pull you over and they run your tags.
That's right.
And then they get out. So when they were questioning him, they were already looking into him. So I'm trying to figure out what did they know or what they didn't know about him when they gave the guns back to his father. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know, man. So, depending on what that investigation produces, the father, Jeffrey, he may be looking at charges of transferring weapons to a person knowingly prohibited from possessing them. So I don't know exactly what penalty he may face, but
you think about how law enforcement was in a lose-lose situation, though. You know what I'm saying? Because people will say, well, why didn't they do anything? They didn't do their job. But then guess what? What if they would have took his guns indefinitely? You know what people would have been saying?
They would have brought up the Second Amendment.
They would have brought up the Second Amendment. We would have had a Second Amendment alarmist.
Even though
up everywhere.
A lot of these Second Amendment enthusiasts, they say that guns should not be in the hands of people that shouldn't have them, dangerous people.
So they say that while at the same time not, I guess, advocating for measures that would prevent that.
So the guy, the customer that actually wrestled the gun away from him, again, that man was named James Shaw Jr. He told reporters that what he did was a selfish act. He said, quote, "I was completely doing it just to save myself. I don't want people to think that I was the Terminator or Superman or anybody like that." And I totally understand him, because at that you can just understand that if you're hiding, right now you're not being detected. You don't want the gunman to turn that weapon on you or find you, and now you're dead. I think he has a 4-year-old girl.
He did mention that too.
Yeah, he was, he was just hoping that he was able to get back to her. So I'm completely fine with him saying that it was a selfish act. At that point, if you're not trying to save yourself first, then I mean, exactly what are you doing? I mean, again, it's not his job to protect everybody. Now, that's exactly what he did by wrestling that gun away from somebody. But your mindset has to be protect myself first.
Well, the survival instinct kicks in.
Yeah.
You fight or flight. I mean, obviously he went to fight, but you're staying.
Saw an opportunity.
Yeah, staying alive is probably your first priority, and that's kind of how he saw it. I think he was in the bathroom or something. He was not
near the bathroom. I think
that little area. I think that
he was
area,
like kneeling or something.
Like that little area between like the bathroom, I guess, where like the kitchen, the entrance for them. And he waited for a gap in shooting, and that's when he kind of came out.
Yeah, and rushed him.
Yeah.
So I mean, it still was a heroic act, because not only was he gonna save himself, he was gonna save everybody else too. And I mean that's what he did. So yeah, his actions should be commended. Ryan King, they believe he's the suspect. I don't know that there has been a positive ID or at least any reports of a positive ID by any of the witnesses that were there. But they do believe that they have the man in custody that committed this attack. So that's it. Another mass shooting. That's really what it is. All right, so let's go to Toronto.
We're gonna start off with 2 tragedies, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, they happen really like back to back. Really, I mean, just over this weekend. Let's see. Where do I have it here? All right, yeah. All right. So on Monday, early in the afternoon in Toronto, Canada, in what appears to be an intentional act, a van plowed through several pedestrians, killing 10 of them. An additional 15 were injured in the incident. It's been reported that the van sometimes drove up on sidewalks, driving on the wrong side of the streets. On the wrong side of the street, just to target pedestrians that were, out there walking and just minding their own business.
How long ago was that, where this kind of similar incident happened in New York?
It was last year.
That was last year.
It was last year. Actually, if you really want to be specific, there were a few different attacks using a vehicle last year. There was one in New York. There was
France.
That was in 2016, I believe. But there was Stockholm, Sweden. There was one in Barcelona, Spain, London. All of that happened in 2017. So this is something that has been occurring with some frequency. Now, of course, right now we don't know exactly what was behind this, a specific motive for this attack. The suspected driver is named Alex Manassian. Or Manassian. Yeah, Alex Manassian of Ontario. He's in custody now.
You want to talk about like how he was taken into custody? Because you sent me that video.
Yeah,
I didn't see that before you sent it to me.
Yeah, and I think you know what? I got the two mixed up actually. I was talking about the incident. I was talking about this situation in the last story. I got them mixed up. But yeah, this was the standoff where he was actually holding something. So, yeah. It looked like it could have been a gun. I don't know if that's been confirmed yet. But in the video, it seems like a bystander was taking some cell phone video, and he was shouting at the officer. It's been reported that he was shouting, "Go ahead, shoot, kill me." And the officer was like, "Nah."
He was like, "I'm reaching my pocket. I got a gun. So at that point, I think the officer knew that whatever object he was pointing wasn't a gun.
Yeah,
because
suicide by cop.
It was because you don't say I'm gonna reach in my pocket and get a gun.
You would just do it.
You would just do it.
Right.
And if you're gonna say I'm gonna reach in my pocket and get a gun, whatever you're pointing is not a gun.
Right.
So the officer on the scene kind of knew from there. I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna do what this guy wants. Maybe that should be, the strategy for anybody who's in a situation with cops. To act like it's a suicide by cop situation so they don't get shot. Because that seems to be the only way a cop won't shoot you, is if you're telling them to. When you say don't shoot, they shoot.
Well, again, this was in another country. This was in
Canada.
Canada.
That's right. That's right. So, gotta keep that in mind.
Yeah, policing in the States, in the the United States of America, is a little bit different. But after after a couple minutes, the suspect he gave up and he went in willingly. At that point, he convinced the officer convinced him to lie down on the ground, put his arms behind his back. The Toronto police chief, whose name is Mark Saunders, he said, quote, "I can tell you is directly related to the high caliber training that takes place. The officers here are taught to use as little force as possible in any given situation."
Yo, I gotta commend that officer for exercising an extreme level of restraint in those circumstances. You know what I'm saying? I gotta take my hat off. Well, I don't got a hat. You can take yours off. But yeah, man. I mean, he was behind his squad car at one point, but like we talk about all the time, that's what he's supposed to do. He sought, refuge behind the car.
Put something in between himself.
Yeah, because he truly doesn't know at that moment, whether this person has a gun. Mm-hmm. So once he realizes, man, this dude doesn't have a gun, he goes out and puts himself
in the line of fire.
In the line of fire. Just I guess from what it looks from our standpoint, but he knew at that point that he probably didn't have a gun, but there was probably still might have been a chance, but he still put himself in that position to I guess de-escalate the situation. And that
this is a guy.
I'm like I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that.
Again, this is a guy who just some 30 minutes prior to this officer and confronting him had plowed into several different people, killing 10 of them. And
the officer was well aware of this. So he knew who he was dealing with.
And still exercised extreme restraint, like you said. A retired chief deputy of the U.S. Marshal Service, whose name is Matthew Hogg, he said, "I was just shocked the officer didn't fire back at that point in time. Our rules of engagement say we could have engaged him with gunfire a long time before that." Yeah, I know what your rules say in America. I know what your rules say. Yeah, as soon as you would have got out of the car, you could have shot him, right? Right? I mean, we've seen that on video. 1 second out of the vehicle.
But it's weird how, like, maybe the severity of the crime may have to do with, I guess, the resolution law enforcement was seeking, because this dude ran up on a curb and just plowed over people for almost a mile. So I think that it's kind of weird to look at it this way, but something so heinous, they're probably more curious about. They're probably more curious as to like why this person would do it. They probably want answers. So maybe
they want him to talk.
They probably want him to talk, which is kind of weird. That's kind of backwards if you kind of like compare that with maybe some of the circumstances where people get shot or tased or abused here in the States.
Well, like you said before,
on some frivolous things.
Like you said before, dead man don't tell tales, right?
Yeah. Like they don't care about, what's going on with this person.
Right.
But when something is really, really heinous, it just seems like, they want to de-escalate it because they have a lot of damn questions.
Yeah, true. I totally agree with that. So again, we don't, I think at this point, at least, we don't have a lot of information about why this attack took place. Exactly. I've heard a little bit about his background. It seems like he was very, he wasn't a social guy, I believe. I think he might have taken some special needs classes back in the day. reclusive guy, maybe. I don't know. But again, we don't know if it's tied to something larger, or if this was just something that he did himself. So can't comment to that end yet. So we'll just keep an eye on it, and if anything new is to be reported, we'll just update it. All right. I have no idea if anybody's watching on Periscope.
I know, but if you are watching, thank you for joining us for this little brief segment here.
We could be talking to ourselves.
I know. I wouldn't be surprised if we are. Oh, well, I might go in there and make some comments later just to make like it more legit.
Yeah, make a like a little profile or something like that.
Fake profile. Oh snap!
Anyway, if anybody is here on on Periscope, thank you for joining us. We're gonna continue the rest of the show on YouTube. You just have to come to YouTube, just search LTMB, Let the Madness Begin. On our Twitter page, there's a link to our YouTube channel. So if you're there, come on over, and we'll see you in just a minute. All right. I think I was talking to myself. I think I was talking to myself. Nothing's telling me anything. Yeah. So this is something new. I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm going to go in there after the show's over and see what it looks like.
I think I used to have Periscope on my phone, but I think I deleted it long ago.
I've never had Periscope.
I think I just tried it maybe one time. There's a lot of there's a lot of different streaming videos on Periscope. I saw when I logged on, but
what's the other one that's kind of becoming popular? BitChute.
Yeah, BitChute. There's Steemit, I believe.
Yeah.
There's I don't know if you can live stream on it. Minds.com, I think is Minds.com. There's MeWe, I think.
I've heard
MeWe. All of these are, I guess they're trying to become more relevant.
They're trying to provide some sort of alternative, like to Facebook and to YouTube, actually.
Yeah, that's true.
Because YouTube is like squeezing everybody out. You know what I mean?
What is it? The adpocalypse. I keep hearing everybody refer to it as the adpocalypse. We've been hit. We've been hit a little bit.
We can start doing prank videos.
Oh my gosh, man! So many views, man, and they're poorly done too. They're so expected. I mean, like, exactly what's gonna happen. It's scripted, but they're still getting millions of views.
That's one of the things that is a product of something becoming so popular, because they see that it gets views, so it's like they're desperate. So, hey, why not just stage them? We still get the views.
And then people in the comments are acting like it's real.
Well, like wrestling.
Yeah.
Like, bro, no.
The most, I think the most famous ones are probably the gold digger ones. Which they're so bad.
So bad, yeah, man. Where he like pulls up in like a trashy car, and the chick is like, "I don't want nothing to do with you." You stuff like just over the top, and all of a sudden he comes in like a Lamborghini,
a Lambo,
Ferrari,
and something like that,
and like she's willing to get a number out, and I'm like, boo, boo,
it's so bad. Man. All right, okay. Let's go to Pompeo, man.
Like, be honest, dog. I mean, if I'm trying to ride down the strip, I'm not gonna be in no doggone 1986 like Pacer.
At no time.
I'm not gonna hate on that. Shoot, if I want to ride down the strip, I want to be in a Lambo. Shit, I don't blame them for the most part. Shoot.
Yeah, that's true. All right. There's been a lot of discussion about the current CIA director, Mike Pompeo's nomination to be the next Secretary of State. And up until recently, it seemed as though he was not going to get a favorable recommendation by the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. That was until Senator Rand Paul flip-flopped. So as many that are aware of the situation, Rand Paul recently said that he was going to do everything he could to block the nomination or the confirmation of Mike Pompeo as being the Secretary of State. But he retracted that and he switched his style up, and this is his new statement that he put forth. He says, President Trump believes that Iraq was a mistake, that regime change has destabilized the region, and that we must end our involvement with Afghanistan. Having received assurances from President Trump and Director Pompeo that he agrees with the president on these important issues, I have decided to support his nomination to be our next Secretary of State. So with that, they only needed Rand Paul because there are 11 Republican members on the committee and there's 10 Democratic members. So it actually has never been done where a Secretary of State nominee has received an unfavorable recommendation by this committee. And actually, for any nomination, I believe it's been 30 years since somebody was sent to the full Senate without a favorable recommendation. So this was going to be historic if Rand Paul did not switch his vote. But old Randy boy came through.
Well, he said that he had a conversation with the president and the would-be Secretary of State and recognized that, I guess, their ideas in regard to foreign policy lined up with his, and
one in the same.
Yeah. And I'm just like, but you, like, they didn't change though. Did Pompeo's foreign policy perspective change since he was like CIA director?
I don't think so.
What about Trump?
I don't think so. And see that, and that's the thing too. When he was confirmed as the CIA director, didn't Rand Paul oppose his nomination? He did. But as Secretary of State, the top diplomat in this country, now he's better suited for that job, you think? That's crazy.
Yeah, because he's like the principal advisor, like on all things foreign policy. All things. The mug negotiates treaties.
Yes.
The mug, I guess he advocates for certain policies in regard to like issuance of, like I guess visas, citizenship. Like, I don't know. Like he influences Trump on what like I guess foreign representatives to reject or accept as allies. I mean, it's like his job responsibilities are crazy, man.
Yeah, it's an extensive list. So at this hearing, Senator Tim Kaine, the Democrat, he had a few words, which he shared that he was opposing Pompeo's nomination. Now I know Tim Kaine, you know that, it may make people twitch or something like that because
Big Daddy Kane.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To be truthful, Tim Kaine is not my type of guy.
No.
Okay, he's not my type of guy. He leans right way too often. He's definitely not a progressive. But on this issue, he's right. So this is what he had to say at that hearing.
Many people oppose the Iran deal. I only know of one who said, we don't need to worry about doing a deal. It's only going to take 2,000 bombing runs to wipe out Iran's nuclear capacity. I only know of one person who said that, and it was Congressman Pompeo. Many people oppose and find reason to oppose, legitimate reason to oppose the regimes in Iran and North Korea. I know of very few who say it should be official U.S. policy to change those regimes. This is the chief diplomat. He has urged us to back out of U.S. diplomatic commitment, both to the Paris Accords and the Iran deal. I'm on the Armed Services Committee. We have Secretary Mattis, who I think we all respect, sitting at a table at the Armed Services Committee who says Iran is complying with the deal and staying in the deal is in the national interest of the United States. This is not about policy difference. I voted for people who are against the Iran deal for other positions, but in the chief diplomatic position, to have somebody who thought military action was preferable to diplomacy, who thinks regime change should be an instrument of foreign policy, and who takes such a contrary position to the to the person that I think is probably the indispensable voice of this administration on matters of national security. I just cannot vote yes, and I'll vote no for those reasons.
So that same guy that you were talking about earlier that you don't believe has switched his ideology, his positions on how he's going to deal with the rest of the world, this is who Rand Paul flip-flopped on.
Well, I mean, Pompeo has been pretty vocal about his view about, I guess, the Muslim world.
Very vocal.
Kind of lines up.
Congressman, right?
Yeah, kind of lines up with the new, what's the National Security Advisor, John Bolton.
Oh yeah.
Kind of matches up pretty nicely with his. But I don't know. Pompeo just seems like a reactionary to me. You know what I'm saying? Not just with his views on Muslim, but his views on gay people too. I think when the Supreme Court ruled on same-sex marriage, I forgot what he called that ruling, some sort of shocking abuse of power. I think that's what he said. So, so to me, he's a reactionary right winger, and what Kane was talking about with his view on the Iran deal, he just wants to blow it up at all costs, no matter what. That
would be a shocking abuse of power, because again, Iran has been complying in this deal. Now, say what you want about the deal. If going into it, because we when Barack Obama was the president, we saw lots of Republicans stating that they were very opposed to this deal. Fine, cool. You think a better deal should have been made, or you think that we shouldn't have agreed to a deal with them in the first place. Cool. The deal is already in place. The deal, as many have described it, is in our best interest to stay into. So why would you just tear it apart again when Iran is being compliant?
I've seen a lot of reactions like on different chat boards from, I guess, pro-Republican voices that are calling any Democrat trying to block or not approve of this kind of nominee as some sort of like I don't know, like a petty partisan squabble by Democrats. Hoping,
that's what Sarah Huckabee Sanders said, press secretary.
Yeah.
And she said something like that.
She said something like that, as if, like, the funny part about that is, like, a lot of people making that argument are saying that because, I guess, their idea is that the Democrats don't want Donald Trump to, I guess, make any positive headway in regard to North Korea. My thing is, if that's your argument, right? If you don't want Trump's name to be on some sort of peace resolution, right? That's the argument I hear people making. Oh, you just don't, you're. What did Huckabee say? Like, I can't remember her exact words, but she's basically saying putting party before country or something like that.
Right.
You know, she's basically saying, oh, you're putting the country at threat. Something like that.
Like they want Trump to fail.
They want Trump to fail.
Right.
And I'm thinking, I was like, wait a second. Like, you can't have it both ways. You can't be talking about the confirmation of a former CIA director who wants to blow the Iran deal up, but at the same no matter what, but at the same time, like, point to some sort of, I guess, point to Democrats and say that, oh, you don't want Pompeo to be Secretary of State because, you don't want, a peaceful resolution in North Korea. So I'm trying to figure out which is it.
Don't we have peace with Iran right now?
That's my point. Don't we have peace with Iran? So it can't.
And they don't have a nuclear weapon, which the deal prevented them from getting a nuclear weapon.
So to me, any objection to Pompeo becoming Secretary of State, to me, seems pretty objective. You see what I'm saying? Not because, Trump may make some headway in North Korea, which I don't think he will, but because of their disagreement with Pompeo being nominated has to do with his reactionary past.
Right. And again, of course, we have our differences with Senator Tim Kaine, but on this issue, again, he is exactly right. Pompeo is a guy that, like you just laid out, he would just want to rip up the Iran agreement, and he has stated that we should just go into North Korea and exercise regime change. Are you crazy? They have nuclear capabilities. Like this if I said that to you, wouldn't that seem like I'm unhinged? Wouldn't that maybe prompt nuclear war? Like, come on, this is not a guy that should be the next Secretary of State, but with Rand Paul flip-flopping and a few Democratic senators stating their intentions to support his nomination as well.
Oh, I know you got their names.
Oh, I got some names. I got some names. So the progressive Senator Joe Manchin, he's supporting Pompeo's nomination. Also, the next progressive I'm going to talk about is Senator Joe Donnelly. He's supporting Pompeo's nomination. The next one that I'm going to be talking about, she's even more progressive than they are. Senator Heidi Heitkamp. Yeah. And we actually have video from Senator Heitkamp. She was being interviewed by Lauren Windsor from the Undercurrent. She asked her about why she was going to be supporting Pompeo's nomination.
I noticed that you put out your statement today about your support for Mike Pompeo. I was wondering what the decisive factor was.
I think I always have believed that what someone is entitled to is their own cabinet, and he's clearly qualified. I think the concern that people have is how much is he going to be a check and balance on, kind of randomness, and I think he's got the right experience to do the job, and so.
But so you don't object to his support for torture or NSA spying programs?
Sure. I mean, I think you've got to be concerned about the positions they've taken, but at the same token, if it's not him, I mean, we need a Secretary of State.
And this was not the result of any pressure from the Trump administration?
No.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Man, she said a whole bunch of nothing. Randomness. No, she actually said random.
She did say randomness.
I'm not just saying random.
She did. She
said making fun of her for being random, but she actually said randomness.
And her answer was kind of random.
Talking about, she said, yes, they have positions, but like, he's qualified. He has experience.
No. You forgot a word. He has the right experience. He has the right experience. Now, I love that the interviewer, Lauren Windsor, she followed up and said, so you don't object to his positions on torture and things like that? And she was like, no, yeah, I object to torture. It's just that, blah, 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 blah.
Because like
we need a Secretary of State.
Yeah, because when Obama wanted to close down those black sites and Guantanamo, Pompeo was like mad. He was like, nah, you can't do that. But one thing that did one of the main things that was funny about that is when she said someone is entitled to their own cabinet, or someone is entitled to the cabinet.
He's entitled to his own cabinet.
It's like, then why have confirmations at all then? Why have confirmations in the first place? Why have hearings? Like, for any position, any cabinet position, if they were entitled to it.
Oh, she doesn't understand her job responsibilities. That's what it is.
Oh, no.
No, she doesn't. Okay, so if she doesn't understand her job responsibilities, then she's just coming into the situation like, oh, well, the president is entitled to his own cabinet, so we have to just...
She doesn't believe that.
Do what he says.
She does not believe that. She does not believe that a president isn't entitled. Because like I said, she would not participate in confirmation hearings at all. There
wouldn't even be a rule about that.
There would be a rule about there would be no confirmations. So why do you think she's kind of just rolling over on this? Well, I mean, not just her, but Manchin and Donnelly. Do they have something in common?
Well... I don't know if this is connected, but I think they're up for re-election.
Oh, and they're up for re-election,
and I think they're in red states
that Trump won.
Yeah, Trump won them.
Trump won them.
Yeah, like with Heitkamp's state. I mean, that's North Dakota. Definitely a red state. So maybe she's just feeling like she needs to be supportive of Trump's agenda so that the Trump voters will come out and support her in November. Is that a possibility?
I think we're going way past possibility towards like definite. It's past possibility. It's definite.
It's a sad, man. Again, like before Windsor came back and asked her a follow-up question, she said that Pompeo has the right experience. Then Windsor noted that he has a complicated past on torture. Oh yeah. I have my problems with that. Then how does he have the right experience? Well, we need a Secretary of State. So if it's not him,
her answers were obviously lame, man. She didn't. It's kind of sad that she already understood this was going to be a controversial, confirmation process. She already knew that she was going to probably get questioned on this as being a Democrat and understanding that she is in a red state. She should have known that she was going to get questioned, at some point. So she should have had some canned answers at least ready. She should at least have some canned answers.
Not randomness.
That's what she said. She said randomness. Like, I was like, what are you talking about?
She wasn't prepared for that. But yeah, so next, since Pompeo did get the favorable recommendation from the Foreign Relations Committee, now it goes to the full Senate. So the full Senate is now going to vote to confirm Mike Pompeo, in which it's inevitable he's going to become the next Secretary of State. Because again, all they needed was every Republican to be lockstep in the same single file line, and they needed maybe one Democrat to come over too. And they got that.
Rand Paul.
They got that.
That mug is fraudulently inconsistent, dog.
This Rand Paul, the libertarian.
He voted for the tax bill, remember too?
Yeah, I do. But Rand Paul, he has a, I guess his rhetoric always suggests that he is not for these wars.
Not for these wars.
He is not for military intervention.
Yeah, because of the spending of I guess part of it.
Part of it, and because of the loss of lives as well too. But when it comes down to it, like when it comes down to like, okay, you have to actually state your intention to go this way or this way, he's gonna vote to confirm Mike Pompeo. Man, he's a fraud, man. He's a damn fraud.
Because what can you inevitably, like, I guess, foresee happening with him as Secretary of State?
All the things that we just talked about. We could talk about problems with North Korea. We could talk about problems with Iran,
Syria,
the Middle East in general.
And now he's got a little partner along with him as National Security Advisor John Bolton. So
exactly,
who knows, man?
And as for Bloody Gina, the nominee to be the next CIA director, Gina Haspel, her confirmation hearing, I believe, is going to be on May 9th, and it's going to be with the Senate Intelligence Committee. So I thought it was interesting. 109 former military officials signed an open letter. It was published by Human Rights First. They are calling for the declassification on Haspel's CIA records because they think she has a very complicated past with torture as well, which we have talked about on an earlier broadcast. So I don't know what's going to come of that. I think it was the CIA that they did declassify one record, I believe, that I guess it limited her. It showed that her responsibility was actually limited, like she was just following directions, and she wasn't really responsible for anything.
Well, then she's not a leader. Then
exactly,
like get out, just get out of your position if you feel you cannot. I guess exercise your ethics.
In this letter that they wrote or that they signed, it says, quote, "We did not accept the just following orders justification after World War II, and we should not accept it now. Waterboarding and other forms of torture or cruel and inhumane treatment are and always have been clearly unlawful." So they're seeking answers into, what's really in her past, what's really in her CIA record. So we'll see if that, if anything comes of that. All right. North Korea. North Korea is a very interesting topic to talk about. There have been a lot of reports stating that North Korea and South Korea are trying to make amends. They're engaged in talks, and they want to formally bring an end to the Korean War, which has not officially ended it's been going on for 60 years, even though it hasn't been
it's not like they've been trading blows back and forth,
right?
But they haven't had what you call like
a treaty.
They haven't had peace.
Exactly.
Peace treaty.
It's always been very, very tense. So, in these talks, or in these proposed talks, and especially the U.S. is coming to the table as well, it's been reported that Kim Jong-un, the leader of North Korea, is open to denuclearization. That is what has been promoted in the media, that he is open to shut down his nuclear weapons program.
One of the main sources is coming from CNN.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Now, we do have a clip, okay? Or actually, it's just audio. We have an audio clip of a CNN correspondent by the name of Will Ripley. He is talking about the updated status in North Korea and what North Korea has revealed. So I want to play that now.
Wolf, I just got off the phone with a North Korean official who confirms news that is breaking right now in North Korean state media. Kim Jong-un has announced to his country and his own people that he has completed his nuclear program, and therefore there is no need to continue developing nuclear weapons. Kim Jong-un saying North Korea no longer needs any nuclear tests, mid-range and intercontinental ballistic missile tests, and he's saying that the nuclear test site in the northern area near the Chinese border at Punggye-ri has completed its mission, therefore will likely be closed. This is an extraordinarily significant development and, frankly, a huge win for President Trump going into these discussions, this potential summit with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. I want to read for you a quote from a North Korean source that I just spoke with on the phone minutes ago. He told me, quote, "Finally, Kim Jong-un has decided to open up. This is a new chapter for the DPRK. He has committed himself to the path of denuclearization and will now focus solely on economic growth and improving the national economy. Finally, he's realized the best path forward is to open up the country and normalize relations. He is finally being recognized by the international community, and this is an historic, timely opportunity." Wolf, I have to say, I am really almost speechless here at the pace at which North Korea has done this U-turn. And this all started with Donald Trump agreeing to sit down for a summit with Kim Jong-un.
Whoa.
That last statement.
That last statement has to be the most, false statement about this whole North Korea United States conflict I have ever heard.
It started with Donald Trump. Now,
did Donald Trump arrange this meeting? What can we say at this point did Trump actually do? As far as the logistics and organizing, as far as this meeting goes, to me, from what I have been reading, the South Korean president and South Korean officials have been doing all the legwork on this, and this became more evident during the Olympics. Moon is the one who encouraged and influenced Un to allow North Korea to participate in the Olympics. Moon is the one who influenced Kim Jong-un's conciliatory remarks during I think Un's New Year's Day address. When Kim Jong-un sent his sister to South Korea, it was Moon who did most of the talking during some 3-hour talks.
Right.
It was Moon that convinced North Korea to bring Washington in to this discussion. So I'm trying to figure out, and a discussion, I'll say a discussion, but bring Washington in to a table that was already set.
Yes.
Like, South Korea sent officials to Washington to kind of formally set up this meeting that's between North Korea, South Korea, and United States. So Moon and South Korea have been the glue in all this. So this happened like merely. How does Trump get credit for just accepting an invitation?
That's one of my problems. Okay, because a lot of people are trying to attribute all of what's going on with North Korea to Trump. Again, that Will Ripley, the CNN correspondent, said that this was a huge win for Trump. Like Mike just perfectly laid out, seems like South Korea has been orchestrating everything that's been going on behind the scenes. But why is Trump getting the credit? Okay, so that's one problem I have with this. But the other problem is that there is this talk of denuclearization. If you heard Will Ripley in the CNN clip, the audio that we just played for you, he says that North Korea had completed its mission. It's completed its testing, and now they're going to shut down those testing locations, those testing facilities. That doesn't mean that they are denuclearizing themselves. It doesn't mean that they're giving up their nuclear weapons or any. All it means is that they are so technologically advanced in the nuclear realm that they don't need to conduct testing anymore, because that's countries all across the globe do not conduct regular nuclear.
I was about to say we don't.
No, we don't.
We don't. U.S. or Russia doesn't.
Exactly. So they have reached a point to where they are so capable that they don't need to conduct testing anymore, and we're looking at this as like this is a positive. UN has come so far, and like it was today. Today, President Trump called UN a very honorable person. This is after President Trump had labeled him
a madman,
unhinged,
rocket
called
man.
him Little Rocket Man,
basically
threatened to destroy the entire country of North Korea.
Fire and fury. My button is bigger than yours.
Exactly. But now he's a very honorable man, and now again, UN is going to give up all of his nuclear weapons when that's something that he never stated, or that the country, the spokesmember. I mean, like nobody has said this. Like, even Will Ripley didn't say that.
The funny thing about it is, like Ripley mentioned some sort of base closing down, or some testing site.
Sites.
But I remember a report late last year, around October or November, that that highlighted a nuclear testing site that was becoming unstable, and later on, like imploded, collapsing all the tunnels underneath the ground, killing people. So, what do you think is more likely, if you're considering, like, Kim Jong-un's personality? He has a personality that he is not going to admit failure, right?
Right.
He was probably going to flip that little disaster into something where he can look like he's, I don't know, illustrating some form of diplomacy. He's like, oh, we didn't fail. We shut it down. We shut that nuclear, that little testing site down when it actually just failed. So instead of coming out and saying, yeah, it failed, he'd say, yeah, we just shut it down, and make himself look like he's the reasonable one. Like, we got to remember who we're dealing with here. Like, he would not admit that something like some huge investment such as that failed.
On an earlier program, we questioned the legitimacy of the thought that UN would actually de-weaponize, like get rid of his nuclear capability, because the only reason, especially under this current president, Donald Trump, the only reason that America has not attacked North Korea is because of their nuclear capability, and because nobody really knows how far along they are. Nobody really knows how advanced they are in that realm. So to think that UN would give up the only thing that's preventing a strike is kind of crazy.
Yeah, and last year, according to, I guess, what the talks that North Korea and South Korea were having, UN's kind of, I guess, sought out, I guess, resolution for their conflict with South Korea and South Korea and the United States was that they get to keep their weapons, and inspectors get to come in, and also the United States deactivates the base they have in South Korea. That was, from what I've read, that was the preconditions that North Korea had. Now, the U.S. seems to be coming into this meeting with not any preconditions, but an assumptions.
It looks like it's all assumptions. There are no preconditions like, oh, you have to give up your nuclear capability. No, that is not the precondition. Now, I think it was, I think I've heard reports, or I've seen reports stating that Un, I think, understands that America has a presence in South Korea, and he understands that's not going to go away. He understands that they conduct military tests too, like military operations, and he understands that. So we're not saying that there's communication going on. Like, it seems like, no, there is communication that is being led by President Moon Jae-in, the president of South Korea.
Yeah, that's another reason why we kind of haven't put any foot forward in North Korea, because Moon has publicly rejected Trump's approach to North Korea.
Right.
Last August, I remember him saying something like there will be no U.S. actions or military actions in the peninsula without South Korean approval. So from the jump, he has kind of showed himself to be the mediator in all this, and I still don't understand how people are all of a sudden
giving it to Trump, right?
Trump's. Oh, you know what they're saying? Probably his Twitter rages. You know what I'm saying?
It scared him.
His Twitter rages and chest pounding rhetoric just magically calmed a paranoid dictator.
It like wrestled him into submission.
Yeah, magically. Okay. If you're gonna use anything to make that argument, that's the only thing you can use.
And I think that's a foolish argument. Again, the number of things that Trump has said, it's always been like Un has always been described as a similar madman.
Yeah, and I guess
he's backing down now because of Trump.
And a lot of people who I've seen this, some people we're on the same kind of in the same political circles, have shared, I guess, some remarks that Moon made about Trump, that he said he credits Trump for something.
But what does that sound like, man?
But no, I tell you what it sounds like. Moon is smart. He gave, like, ahead of these talks, he gave Trump credit for, like, being
instrumental.
Yes. But he wasn't specific about what Trump actually did.
Never.
So what that tells me is, I was like, he is stroking Trump's ego.
No doubt.
He is tickling his ear a little bit just to get him to come to the table. And I was like, you know what? That's smart. He knows that's what he has to do. Most likely he's doing the same thing to Un as well, because they're both the same personalities. So that's the only way he can get Trump to come to the table, is to give him credit for something.
Which he doesn't deserve.
And then people are following that up. And I'm like, why are you following it up if you can't actually point to anything specific or something concrete that Trump has actually done? You're just getting caught up in how a leader is trying to, play Trump like a fiddle. And that's what he did. And he's smart.
This is the change that North Korea made in policy that was announced via news agency KCNA. It was a 6-point list. All right. So these are the points. All right. So the number 1 point was we declare solemnly that we faithfully realize the nuclear weaponization. So that sounds like they don't need to test anymore. They have reached a point to where they are fully ready to launch nuclear weapons, just like America is. That's what it sounds like. The next one, the nuclear test site in northern area will be discarded because they don't need it anymore.
And yeah, like I said, they don't need it anymore. And maybe they were like, okay, it's gone now. It got blown up by accident, or it imploded. So either they're shutting it down because they
reached a point,
or it's like, you know what, we've done enough.
Right. Next one, it's an important process for global nuclear disarmament. Interesting.
He said
Global?
global.
He didn't just point the finger at himself. He didn't say North Korea is interested in disarmament. Global nuclear disarmament.
So
I wonder if during these talks, if North Korea is going to propose that the United States get rid of all the nuclear weapons.
Okay, so when Ripley was, that's the name, right?
Yeah, Will Ripley
was talking about denuclearization. He was thinking it was just North Korea.
Doesn't sound like it.
When Un is like, nah, it can't just be me.
No,
and that's a smart move.
Again, there's no rationale in that. I mean, again, the things that are keeping North Korea safe from a strike is their nuclear technology. It just doesn't make sense that they're going to be the only ones that say, all right, we're going to give them up. It doesn't make sense. So the next one, we will never use nuclear weapons unless there's a nuclear threat or nuclear provocation to our country. They've said that before. No news there. They want to dramatically raise people's lives with a strong socialist economy. So he's saying that he's interested in the goodwill of the people. He wants to do better for the people of North Korea. Okay. All right. North Korea will intensify close ties and dialogue. So just like what they're doing with South Korea, they're engaging in dialogue. I'm sure they are going to be engaging in dialogue with China as well, Russia. They want to solidify relationships. None of this spells that they are interested in giving up their nuclear capabilities.
And of course, even all this should be, taken with a grain of salt. I mean, they've been playing this little cat and mouse game for 40 years, 60 years. Because it's always been one step forward, two step back, cha-cha slide, when it comes to backing out of, agreements and, I guess keeping the provisions to certain resolutions, such as like allowing inspectors in to look at, their nuclear tested facilities. They never want that to be done. Never. So unless, they're going to allow international inspectors in to these sites, then I think we should just hold off. Just hold off.
On a congratulations, right? Just hold off on all of that because we don't know what's going to happen. All right, let's move on. Team Blue.
Huh?
Team Blue.
Huh?
Democratic Party, man.
The Duke? Blue Devils? Nah, I don't like Duke.
Democratic Party.
North Carolina?
We want to talk about the Democratic Party.
Talking about UNC?
No. I'm talking about that old
Memphis Tigers? The Memphis Memphis?
Well, I think the Grand Old Party is the GOP, right? Is that the Grand Old Party?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. What's the slogan for the
Donkey of the Day? Donkey of the Day. That's the Democratic Party, Donkey of the Day. That's what you're talking about. You talking about Go Blue. You talking about Duke, North Carolina, Memphis, right?
Democratic Party, man. Let's get in on the Democratic Party. So, if the Democratic Party did not spell out how ridiculous, how loathsome they are, they went to extraordinary measures to tell that to the American people recently. So on Friday, the Democratic Party sued President Donald Trump's presidential campaign, the Russia government, and WikiLeaks. They claimed that they're all part of an illegal conspiracy to help Trump win the presidential election in 2016. This is a multi-million-dollar lawsuit that was filed in Manhattan federal court. In the documents, it says, in the Trump campaign, Russia found a willing and active partner in this effort to mount a brazen attack on American democracy. It also says that the Trump campaign, quote, gleefully welcomed Russia's help. Also, it says the lawsuit says that quote, pre-existing relationships with Russia and Russian oligarchs with Donald Trump and his associates, quote, provided fertile ground for the Russia-Trump conspiracy. So, according to this lawsuit, there is no suspicion. Okay? It happened. Get over it. It happened. Trump conspired with Russia to turn the election into Donald Trump's favor, and that is why he won in 2016, and that is why he is our president right now.
Russia, Donald Trump, and
WikiLeaks. All of them together conspired. And like I said, this is a conspiracy, and they are guilty. They are guilty. So we don't need to wait for the end of Special Counsel Robert Mueller's investigation to end. We don't need for that to. We don't need to wait for the outcome, because apparently the Democratic Party has already concluded that Trump is guilty, WikiLeaks is guilty, and Russia is guilty, and they deserve millions of dollars.
Huh? How about them Yankees? How about them Yankees?
We just called up a new prospect. Got his first hit last night. But we talking about the Democratic Party though.
Shit. No, I don't want to talk about this, dog. You know I don't want to talk about this. This is so whack. This is so whack, man. Can we talk about the playoffs, NBA playoffs? Anything?
This is lame, man.
I look, I'm not going to rage about how frivolous it is, because it is. I'm not going to rage about how ironic it is, considering the DNC had a lawsuit against them for doing what? Rigging the primary? Money laundering and blatant partiality?
Yeah, rigging the process.
Yeah, rigging the process. Yeah. So, I mean, it's ironic. So I'm trying my best not to like reopen that chapter, you know, because we can rehash the same arguments to the audience that they already heard, and most likely they gonna already co-sign. So I guess the way I would approach it, the way I want to approach it is, I guess, talk about how it's an awful strategy. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not going to try to, you know, cash in from what we already know, rhetorically cash in. But let's just talk about the strategy of it all. So, like, think about this. We have midterms right around the corner, right? We have midterms right around the corner. So they are investing money. Now. They're investing money into litigation, into something that they say happened 2 years ago, 2016 election, right? They're relitigating, or they're I don't want to say relitigating, but they're litigating this issue from 2 years ago when the midterms are right around the corner.
Later this year.
Later this year.
Hold up.
So strategically, like, to me, like, okay, once we get past all the DNC rage, because we already went through that, like, strategically, does that even make sense? Like, I mean, Tom Perez, I mean, he's tone deaf politically, but he's no dummy. We already know this wasn't his unilateral decision.
No,
so this was a decision by committee. So do they know something that we don't?
But even if they do, again, even if they knew something that we don't, right? First of all, this lawsuit has no chance in hell. That's just first of all. But second of all, like you said, the midterms are right around the corner. They're coming in just a few months in November. The only people that believe that Russia is responsible for Donald Trump being president are Democratic loyalists. Like those, like, fervent, like, Team Blue, I bleed blue, I'm Democratic till I die. Those people. The people that are independents, the people that are progressives, Republicans, all of these people are like, bullshit. No, we don't believe that. We don't believe that. It's Hillary's fault. It's the DNC's fault. It's the Democratic Party's fault. It's all y'all fault. It's not because of Russia. So wouldn't this have the opposite effect? Like, if they're trying to make waves, if they're trying to create this blue wave in the midterms of 2018,
why are you going back?
Why would you try to distance yourself from potential votes?
And they already, again, it just seems like a risky investment, because, you know, this lawsuit is not cheap. Lawsuit is not cheap, and from what I've been reading, they're not raising as much money as they were.
Some of them. Well, you know what? Well, individual candidates but not the party.
Like, not the party.
Right.
Like, when you look at the total fundraising efforts of the entire party, is down.
Right. It is.
So they must be. They're just putting all of their eggs in this 2016 election
in this Russia basket.
But I will say, like, even though this is a slap in the face to Bernie supporters, like, we gotta kind of look at what is going to happen next, though. Like, think about it, though. What's going to happen now when what happens when you file a lawsuit? They're gonna file discovery motions.
Yeah, discovery. Mm-hmm.
They're gonna file discovery motions for both sides. So that's gonna mean, well, I think I'm just probably gonna mean that the DNC is gonna have to hand over their servers. Remember those servers? People were saying, well, how come they didn't hand them over to the FBI?
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna have to show evidence, right? So they're gonna have to hand over the servers. Quite possibly, Donald Trump and associates might have to hand over some of their communications, as well as WikiLeaks as well. So whatever is going to come out of this is going to be a lot of information. So even if you feel like this is a slap in the face as a Bernie supporter, or as just a regular, just somebody,
if you're not a Democratic
loyalist,
mm-hmm.
There's some stuff that's going to come out. You know what I'm saying? Even though I think it's frivolous.
Unless it's thrown out.
What?
Unless it's thrown out.
What do you mean? Less the lawsuit in general is thrown out?
It's just thrown out, yeah.
True.
It could be.
True.
That's very possible.
True, you're right. Didn't consider that.
I want to highlight the words of the DNC chairman, Tom Perez. He said that the lawsuit is not partisan, it's patriotic. He also said, quote, "If the occupant of the Oval Office won't protect our democracy, Democrats will. It is our obligation to the American people." Wow. Hold on. When I read that, I was like, whoa. We are just off the heels of the bank deregulation bill, which Democrats voted for, which will allow banks to discriminate against black and brown people, to issue them higher interest rates, or just to decline them, even though they have similar credit profiles as the white people who are getting approved and lower interest rates,
and not actually be forced to keep records.
Yes. Also,
so they can't track discrimination.
No, they can't because they did away with that because of this deregulation bill. Okay. Also, we're talking about democracy, right? We're talking about fairness and justice, right? Okay. If you really wanted to be the part, because you said if the Oval Office won't protect our democracy, Democrats will. Okay. So if you're really interested in democracy, why don't you open up the party? Why don't you open up the primary so that everybody can vote? Why don't you open it up so that when people come to the primaries, they can register that same day and vote? Why wouldn't you do that if you are really interested in Democrats being the party for the people? I see you're not really interested in that, are you, though? All you're interested in is scapegoating Russia and saying that Hillary really was not responsible for her own demise. It had nothing to do with the Democratic Party.
Actually, not just Hillary Clinton, but the DNC and orchestrating it for her.
Yes, no doubt. All of them together.
Regardless of whether people think that she had her fingers deep in the DNC, regardless of whether people think that her campaign ran it, that's not something the DNC had to do. I mean, I know she's powerful. Bill Clinton's powerful.
But they could have operated with integrity, though. They could have.
They could have. They didn't. It doesn't look like they went kicking and screaming. You see what I'm saying? You're like,
I wasn't prepared for that. Oh gosh.
No, so I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, no, I can't even put this on Hillary Clinton. I think that's what Donna Brazile was actually trying to do. Remember, she was trying to save the reputation of the DNC by trying to, I guess, present this, Hillary Clinton's campaign took over. The DNC, that she took over. I'm like, no, you're not getting out of this.
And then try to
backtrack. I'm like, no, you're not getting out of this. You're not getting out of this.
Oh my gosh, man. The sad Democratic
You know
Party,
what?
man.
That's kind of funny, when you mention it like that. When you highlighted that, Tom Perez wanted to put so much heavy focus on democracy and fairness,
right?
Except when it comes to like establishment Democrats in the DNC.
Yep.
All the time we talk about Republicans talking about, I guess their little wedge issues about, the First Amendment, free speech, their freedoms being, trampled upon, their anti-government stances. We always talk about how hypocritical they are because they care about that stuff only in regards to them, and they are more than willing to see other people with a boot on their neck, even though if the shoe was on the other foot, they'd be screaming to the ceilings. So we always talk about Republicans and how they have like this tunnel vision in their attitude towards, I guess, their own livelihood and ignoring everybody else. We talk about that with Republicans all the time, but the way you just put it, seems like establishment Democrats do the same thing.
In just different ways, right?
Just different ways.
But we already knew that, man. Again, they just put it out for the world to see, for at least this country to see just how awful they are, man. So while we're on Democrats, let's talk about one of these Democrats. Kamala Harris. So Kamala Harris is one of the leading potential candidates for the 2020 Democratic nomination, and she recently appeared on the Breakfast Club. She fielded a question about corporate donations, and this is what she had to say about it.
Saw you talking about corporate donations.
Yeah,
and you said you would. It depends whether you would take them or not.
I was asked, I did a town hall a couple weeks ago in California, and I was asked that question, and I wasn't expecting the question, and I thought about it afterwards, and I'm going to tell you, Charlamagne, I actually, I think that money has had such an outside influence on politics, and especially with the Supreme Court determining Citizens United, which basically means that big corporations can spend unlimited amounts of money influencing a campaign, right? We're all supposed to have an equal vote, but money has now really tipped the balance between an individual having equal power in an election to a corporation. So I've actually made a decision since I had that conversation that I'm not going to accept corporate PAC checks.
Wow.
I'm not.
So how you going to raise money for campaigns and stuff?
Well, I've raised so far this year $3 million for my colleagues for the 2018 election cycle, and most of that money has been like in $18, $20 increments. People are turning out.
Well, what's the website? Yeah,
how can people help? How can people help?
Go to KamalaHarris.org and you will find it.
Did you notice the answer she gave to Charlamagne's question? And that was pretty much the only hard-hitting question they asked. But she said, I raise money from my colleagues. Charlamagne asked her, how are you going to raise money? Did she ever give an answer?
It didn't sound like it.
No. She said, well, I've raised $3 million. That's what she said, $3 million, right? From my colleagues. So
in small donations.
But I was like, oh, that was a nice little skirt. That was a nice. She scurried away from that question. But first, I watched probably about 66 to 70% of that interview. That's all I can get through. But
I got through about a minute and a half.
I guess I like to torture myself.
Masochist though.
But you don't go on the Breakfast Club to appeal to red state voters, do you?
No.
We know what that was about. Trying to sell her to black people. You know what I'm saying? I'm just glad she didn't pull no hot sauce out of me first, though.
This would have been the platform.
It would have been the platform.
Because they did it on the same show.
I just don't like entertainment shows like this, like that feature candidates, because they never challenge the person. And that question that Charlamagne asked was like the only seemingly challenged question that he asked. I mean, it's like like the whole interview was like the questions they were asking. It just seems as if they were prompted by, I don't know, her book, her personal bio. And so there's nothing about, it didn't feel like they understood or knew anything about her, I guess, the inner workings and the details to her politics, her political metrics, anything like that.
See, this is actually nothing new, because we've seen a number of different Democrats that are looked at as Democratic hopefuls for 2020. Kirsten Gillibrand, Warren, Booker, and of course Bernie Sanders as well. All of them, now including Kamala Harris, have stated their intention to not accept corporate PAC donations. So, is this real, or is this the Bernie effect? I think it's the Bernie effect, because how else to beat Bernie Sanders than to become just like him? If Bernie Sanders is going to run in 2020, we don't know if he is or not, but if he is going to run, I think we noted back in 2016 that if Hillary Clinton just did the one thing and did not accept super PAC money, then she probably would have, she would have breezed through the primaries. She ultimately won anyways, but she would have breezed through. Bernie wouldn't have stood a chance, because one of the main issues during those primaries was money in politics. If Hillary Clinton is saying that, you know what, it really is a problem, which she said all the time, but if she said that and then backed it up with her intention to not accept corporate donations, then people would have been like, well, you know, she does have positions which I don't understand and that I don't agree with, but damn it, she's really doing something to prove that she's not bought. You know what? Okay, that's enough for me. I guarantee you that would have been enough for many, many people, and she probably would have won the general election as well. So Kamala Harris and all these other Democrats are saying, hey, if Bernie gets in 2020, we're gonna be just like you, Bernie.
So what are you getting at here? You're saying that, you know, Hillary Clinton kind of issued that rhetoric about money in politics while doing the opposite. So you're saying to say like, well, wait and see. Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're getting at? Simply because she's saying it, that does not mean that's going to play itself out in reality? Is that kind of what you're saying?
I think that if she does intend to run for the Democratic nomination in 2020, which I think it's undoubtedly going to happen, will she accept corporate money? I don't think she will. Because she's already.
How do you go from, I guess, meeting with Clinton donors in the Hamptons?
Yeah.
What, last July or something like that? How do you go from that to being like some sort of like, I don't know, Bernie Sanders copycat?
The Bernie effect. Okay, so the town hall that she was talking about happened a few weeks ago in Sacramento, California. Okay, so she was asked by somebody in the audience whether she would turn down corporate PAC donations. She replied, "Well, it depends. It depends." That was her quote. So then right after that, the questioner was like, well, that's the wrong answer. And then she gave a more extensive answer, and this was what it was. I appreciate the reason that you're asking it. I do appreciate that. And that's why we have rules that require that any donation that anyone receives needs to be disclosed, so that you can do an assessment and the voters can do an assessment and look at where the contributions come from and make your decisions about whether those contributions have influenced the way that people act and the way that people vote. Now, we heard, man, that sounds very, very similar. I think we heard just about the same damn thing from Hillary Clinton. So these people that, and you know what? Forget Hillary Clinton. We heard it on the other side as well with Senator Ted Cruz. Because I remember there was a specific, it was like a town hall kind of event, but not really. But anyway, there were a number of Republican hopefuls that were there. And Senator Ted Cruz was like, I'm not going to stop receiving this money. What we do is we just disclose where it's coming from, who it's coming from, and, that should be good enough. All right, I'm out of here. So that's exactly what Harris is saying, is that as long as you know who the money is coming from, then we should be good. But that's never good, because the reason why it's not good is because we understand that politics is dirty. A lot of people understand that politics is dirty, but many voters don't care.
And you know, that's funny because like that still doesn't support the position that she expressed on the Breakfast Club. No. She said the money like influences decisions. That's what she said.
Yep. So why did you even have a position beforehand that you would take?
And that's what I'm
the
saying.
Corporate
like,
PAC money.
If the money influences the decisions, like I guess revealing where that money is coming from is not going to alter that.
Dog. Hillary Clinton said the exact same thing. I remember at a press conference, she said, money corrupts the political process.
Actually, you know what?
So if you say that, how does it not corrupt you?
To me, that wasn't even the most alarming thing that that stood out to me in that Breakfast Club interview, because I nearly threw up in my mouth when she said something about being influenced by the Black Panthers. Because they got that from her book. Like I said, she was using this show as some sort of like pageant for herself. And I'm like, influenced by the Black Panthers? Then she started talking about criminal justice reform and all this stuff. But her record definitely reflects the opposite. She's always been on the side of law enforcement. Like if you look at her record, like as far as where she was a district attorney and attorney general, dude. Like that's probably the part of the interview that really pissed me off, is when she kind of said she looked up to the Black Panthers. I was like, boo. And she started talking about criminal justice. And obviously it started focusing on Black people. But most of the people that were affected by either the policies she supported or rejected were Black people. She supports civil asset forfeiture. She actually blocked the bill reforming civil asset forfeiture. She blocked the bill that would require her office to investigate fatal shootings by police. She pushed some sort of ultra harsh truancy law that punished the parents of kids
staying out of school,
like severe cases with like a fine of $2,000 and a year in jail. So she was always talking about the criminal justice system and keeping people out of jail, and that took up a large part of the interview. But if you look at her record, it is like the complete opposite.
Look, pander. She's trying to be the pander in chief. She pandered to Democratic voters. She pandered to Bernie Sanders voters. She pandered to Black people, like you just said with the Black Panther thing. She's not real, man. She's not real. And again, she might do as she stated and not take corporate PAC money. I expect her to not take it, not to accept it, because there would be a real bad look for you to go back in 2020, because this is just 2 years prior. Man, people will pull out that tape and present it to you, and what are you gonna do? Right? So, and especially if the other candidates that might possibly run have already laid the groundwork and said that they're not going to do it as well. You can't be the one that is going to do it. Nobody's going to support your campaign.
She was trying to play that HBCU card too.
Yeah.
And one time I caught her switching up her tone, or she tried to switch up her cadence, because she said something like it was like she just was talking regularly, and she said the same thing but with more flavor. I was like, did anybody catch that? I can't remember exactly what she said, but she said something and she said it regular, and then right afterwards she said it in a different way and twisted it. I was like, wait a second. Yeah, I was like, so she's conscious of what she's doing, but she knows what she's doing, because I think
she does, man.
She was doing an interview with David Axelrod, because he has some sort of show or podcast or something. She's trying to get ahead of where she thinks people would attack her, because she says she disagrees with her positions on criminal justice reform. I disagree with my own positions. I'm like, don't try to play the the Marshall Mathers B Rabbit game and try to like burn those bridges before we come over.
So she's trying to do the
like
work
she played
of the
the
opposition.
She tried to do
already.
the B Rabbit thing, or like the Charlemagne likes to do that. That's his game. I won't say it's a game, but that's who he is. He likes to burn the bridges, his own bridges, so nobody can cross over. So you can't get me on that because see, I criticize myself.
Exactly.
Like, nah,
that's a smart tactic. That's the smart tactic to get ahead of all your flaws before it's brought out, inside the campaign in 2020. So it's a smart tactic. Very smart.
Oh, it is smart.
Yeah. I'm sure she'll score points for it.
Oh, she'll score some points. She's probably scored some points just for going on the Breakfast Club.
No doubt. All right, let's move on. So the Washington Post reported that Senator Bernie Sanders is planning on unveiling a new proposal that will effectively guarantee federal jobs for anybody that wants them. Federal jobs that will start at least $15 an hour, and that will come with health benefits as well. So the details of this proposal hasn't been released yet. But again, it's meant to attack a glaring problem in the United States of America with unemployment and underemployment. So, of course, critics of this proposal are saying that it's going to lead to the destabilization of the economy if it's already not destabilized. But, businesses won't be able to, businesses might go out of business, or they might go out of business. They might start hiring fewer employees. They might have to cut back on things, blah, 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 blah. Just your regular, narrative when somebody suggests that we need to do more for our economy, more for our workers.
I think the aim is to try to put money back into the economy.
That's the aim.
And like at first when I heard about it, I'm like, we need to it's not going to solve the private sector issues. Maybe, because obviously if there's some sort of job guarantee, that means that private businesses will benefit from it because that money is going to flow right back into the economy. My pessimism is just that it's just a Band-Aid. You know what I'm saying? That's where my pessimism comes from. It's like, again, this is kind of classic Bernie Sanders, though. You know what I'm saying? But it just seems as if it's just like a Band-Aid.
To me,
it's a Band-Aid that will kind of like stop the bleeding. You know what I'm saying?
Bernie Sanders knows that this has no chance in hell of actually passing because as of right now, no Democrat has signed on to this initiative.
Like
and
what was the last one? The last one you were talking about last week?
The last one was about opioids.
Opioids, right.
No Democrat, no Republican had co-sponsored that bill as well. So no Democrat on this initiative, and of course no Republican as well again. So Bernie Sanders is not a stupid man. He, of course, knows this. He knows that there is a Republican Senate. He knows that there's a Republican House. And he knows that there is a Republican president in the White House. So why is he doing this, right? For me, all of this seems to be, it feels like he's laying the groundwork
for a campaign?
For his campaign in 2020. Because again, very well that this is not getting through Congress. So if he has laid some groundwork, I propose this bill, you're pretty much laying out your platform that you're going to be putting on your campaign website.
So basically, I'm saying this in hopes. So when he gets in, I guess I'm doing my H.A. Goodman here.
It's imminent.
Bernie Sanders election imminent. But when he gets
that's the name of the title.
That's the name of the title.
That's going to be the name of the title.
So when he gets in, he can kind of take care of all these things immediately.
There's already an agenda in place. There's already even a plan. These are proposals that have been researched, and I know exactly what to do here. All it does need to be is passed.
So if he's kind of proposing a federal jobs guarantee, that means that he understands that the government, or our government, the United States, has sovereignty over how much money it prints. You know what I'm saying? Because if he's doing that, he understands that. So there can be a federal jobs guarantee.
So
because he understands that there's going to be there's always money available to allocate to whatever,
right?
As far as expenditures go.
So what you're saying is, federal taxes might not fund spending.
I might be saying that.
You might be saying.
I might be saying that.
Which is what MMT is.
And actually,
theory.
And it doesn't even. Again, that's just a theory that outlines what we already have. You know what I'm saying? Even if you disagree with it, if you disagree with that, then you would essentially have to disagree with what is already being done now and always have been done in order to fund certain spending measures. And why not spend? I think that makes sense. Why not spend for a jobs guarantee when the money's going to go right back into the economy?
Exactly.
That's to me, that's the smartest thing to do.
Everybody should know. Everybody with sense should know that if you have a strong middle class, then that means you're going to have a strong economy because those are the spenders.
I don't believe that is the final solution, though. I don't think unless there's some sort of.
Well, it can't be because that's federal.
Yeah, federal. Unless there's some sort of wrangling back in of the private sector, we're going to constantly have to kind of present countermeasures like this that, like I said in the beginning, only act as a band-aid to stop the bleeding.
But this is one thing that it could set up because, okay, I think we've talked about basic income before, at least once or twice, where basic income is where everybody gets a certain amount of money each month. Let's say it's $1,000, right? No matter what, you get $1,000. You don't have to do anything for it. You get $1,000. So if that was our reality, then that would set up a situation where workers could be more selective in the environment they choose to work in. That would set up a situation where businesses would actually have to, I guess, work for their potential employees as well. Set up safe working environments, pay them the amount of money that they're worth, health benefits, just all the different perks that workers should have already. So if we have a federal jobs guarantee and workers are able to go that route, that is going to get in the way of the private sector. So if the private sector is feeling that, then they're like, okay, well, we're going to have to actually be competitive now.
So you're saying that that's the moment they start to self-regulate?
It might be. I'm just saying it could be.
So they have to have competition.
That's what I'm saying. Again, we don't know the details yet of Senator Bernie Sanders' plan. I feel like I am supportive of the idea, but again, we do need to see, the groundwork, how it all is all laid out.
Because essentially, if you're against, to me, it makes sense. If you're against this, then you will be against, let's say, I don't know, military personnel, because that's almost like a job guarantee too.
It is.
Because that's funded through spending,
and it's work.
That's funding through government spending, so not through government revenue,
right? No doubt.
So if you're against a job guarantee, then you might as well scrap most of the military too, because that's where most of the spending goes. That's a federal job.
It is. All right, let's move on. But yeah, that's something that I want to keep an eye on it for the details, not for its progress, because it will have no progress in the near future. The only progress it's going to have is if Bernie Sanders actually does run for president in 2020 and he somehow gets the Democratic nomination. But we know how these Democrats are trying to climb up on his back and trying to put on makeup to make them look like a 70-something-year-old
Bernie face
Jewish man.
They're trying to put on Bernie face?
Yes, man. That's what they're doing, man. All right. Where are we going now? All right, let's go to Colorado. Oh, my goodness. Let's go to Colorado, man.
Y'all gonna like this one.
Man,
y'all gonna like this one.
These mugs have gone crazy. All right, so we've been highlighting that there have been multiple states where teachers are striking. We've highlighted the case in West Virginia. We've talked about Oklahoma. We've talked about Kentucky. We've also talked about the possibility that Arizona might strike.
Don't leave out West Virginia, dog.
I started with West Virginia.
I forgot. I didn't hear it. My bad.
Yeah.
I'm taking it for granted.
All right. So the next state that we're going to talk about is Colorado. Okay. So teachers in Colorado are calling for higher wages and increased school funding. And they are prepared to walk out on Thursday and Friday of this week. So in preparation for that, there are two state lawmakers who are both Republicans. Their names are Republican Paul Lundeen and Senator Bob Gardner. They have proposed legislation that will essentially criminalize the striking of teachers. Okay? So this is from the Denver Channel. The bill, SB 18-264, would prohibit public school teacher strikes by authorizing school districts to seek an injunction from district court. A failure to comply with the injunction would, quote, constitute contempt of court, and teachers could face not only fines but up to 6 months in county jail, the bill language reads. They want to put teachers that are protesting for better conditions, better school funding, better pay, not just for themselves, but for support staff as well. They want to put these teachers in jail.
Yo, that's like a real slimy scare tactic, because that's what it is. You know why I think it's just a scare tactic? Because it's not comprehensive. It specifically targets school teachers. It says, if you read the bill, it says, it's very short, right? Because it's very targeted. It says public school teachers. That's how you know it's just some sort of scare tactic, because if it wasn't, it would be more comprehensive. And like, I just don't think it will pass, because like, wouldn't it set the stage for other state employees too? You see what I'm saying?
It would, because if they're able to pass this against teachers, then they could do that with anybody. They probably would, and they would use this bill's passing as like to set a precedent. So that means that,
say if it passes, which I don't think it will.
So that means that if something like this is allowed to pass, and that sets the landscape for, like you said, other state employees, then they could never really effectively protest their conditions.
Anything. You can't protest your conditions at all.
They could yell about it. They can get on the media. They can talk about it.
Think about this.
But they could never actually act on their frustrations.
The government is trying to bar those that work for the government from addressing their grievances.
Yeah.
Is that not ironic?
Yeah. Just shut it down, man. We don't want to hear it. You talk, you go to jail.
But think about it, like, technically, when they, I guess, choose these days to protest, right? They're taking a personal day, right? Mm-hmm. They can do whatever they want on their personal day. Does it matter?
Well, I guess if it's orchestrated, if it's this big organized event, I guess it does matter.
I don't think it has to do with a big event. I think it has to do with the subject matter the event is trying to bring attention to.
Yeah, because again, they want better conditions for their schools and for themselves and for other support staff. So this is from the Denver Channel as well. The Colorado Education Association estimates that Colorado teachers spend $656 of their own money for school supplies for students each year, and the average teacher salary here ranks 46th among U.S. states and Washington, D.C., according to the National Education Association. So this is just look, it's becoming redundant. We're talking about all these states that are in the low 40s. In average teacher salaries. We're talking about situations where these schools are poorly funded. In Oklahoma, we noted the broken desks, the furniture, the leaking ceilings.
The books are crumbling. The books are crumbling.
Yes. And in, I don't know the exact case. I don't know exactly what's going on in Colorado as in, well, you know what? Let me take that back. I do know what's going on in Colorado. In other states, it's all about taxes. But in other states, it's about, the big businesses and the wealthy getting these tax breaks, and it just exacerbates just this negative economy, this just horrible economy that are in these states. It's supposed to bring on this economic boom, but it never does, right? So that's why they don't have any money to fund these education. They don't have any money to fund education. The situation in Colorado is a tad bit different. So they passed a few different types of legislation back in, I believe one was in the 80s, one was in the early 90s, one was called Gallagher, and one was Tabor. It was the Taxpayers Bill of Rights. That's what Tabor stands for. So because of these legislations, it makes it very hard to, I guess, accumulate revenue. It has to do with the taxes that are paid on property taxes, and like the property taxes for residential and non-residential. So it's kind of complicated, but it's going to take Congress to get this job done. They're going to have to do something to these different legislations that were passed years ago to actually create a situation where they're able to generate more revenue in the state. And they haven't been able to do so as of yet. So the situation just keeps getting worse because home values keeps going up, and that makes the revenue that they're bringing in from taxes go down. It, like I said, it's a kind of complicated process. I watched this video that was about like 6 minutes long on the process, or the state of affairs in Colorado, but that's exactly what's going on in Colorado. So they're going to have to do something in Congress to address this issue, and I guess Republicans don't want to do it.
Yeah, Colorado has like I guess from what I've read, like the property values like go up like crazy.
Yes. But then when the property, because it has to be, see, I'm not going to explain this, right, but it's like a 55-45 split, and to keep that solvent, to keep that the same, like when the market values of these homes go up, the percentage of what can be collected in taxes goes down. Like I think it started at like 20, I believe it was like 21% like decades ago, maybe like 2 decades ago or so, but now it's all the way down to like 7%. So again, they're taking in less money in the state, and
like they're trying to encourage more affluent people to move in. Yeah, but at the end of the day, they're collecting less revenue.
Right. Like in local taxes, I believe local taxes used to fund most of school spending. I believe it was almost a 50-50 split, talking about the local taxes and state government paying for education. But now it's like completely just off. I'm like, it's just very imbalanced now. Now the state is like funding maybe like over 60% of all school funding or all school education. So again, it's not a good situation in Colorado.
It just seems like a risky threat, though, just to threaten some sort of like violation of a court order and they get put in jail. It just seems like a risky threat because I don't know, like what is the likely outcome? I mean, wouldn't it create an environment where no one wants to take a job anyway? You see what I'm saying? If you I guess are thinking about moving to a state, right? Mm-hmm. If you are around that area and you have, maybe Colorado in mind, maybe you have Nevada in mind, maybe you have Utah, whatever the surrounding states are, and you know that there's a law in the books that will prevent you, not just prevent you, will jail you.
Yes.
Will jail you for just even
walking out. Yeah.
Would you even risk working there? No. So they're creating an environment where they're either going to, one, create like desperation, only desperate people are going to work there, or the people who feel that they're really qualified not going to want to work there at all. So they're just digging themselves a bigger hole.
If they can't protest, then that means that they just have to accept whatever the state legislature gives them. And again, that doesn't lead itself to people entering the profession or people staying in the profession. Like in this article on the Denver Channel, it says that currently the state is underfunding schools by more than $800 million each year.
So they already know they're underfunding the schools. So it's to me, it's just a slap in the face. It's a slap in the face to all educators if you are threatening them with jail because they're highlighting something that is provable by the numbers. You see what I'm saying? This is not like something that teachers are highlighting that can't be looked up or can't be verified.
Right.
Education is already underfunded. So you're making it like teachers are highlighting an issue that's frivolous.
And it's not. It's not frivolous at all. This is about their livelihoods, and it's about the livelihoods of children as well.
They're telling me they don't have an argument. I'm going to throw you in jail. That's just telling me you don't have an argument.
That's draconian, man.
You're telling me you really don't have an argument when you're just trying to...
Oh, what? They're walking out?
Oh, I'm in jail.
Teachers will go to jail. Go ahead, run it down. Let's get on the book.
That tells me you don't have an argument when you go to that length. That's kind of that to me, that's a display of poor leadership.
You think?
No, seriously, because like that means you don't want to sit at the table and move these different pieces around and just come to the realization that there's some things that you can no longer give to your buddies, your corporate buddies. You kind of have to just have a backbone now, but you don't want to do that. So you just say, hey, damn it, we'll just stop the conversation.
Like, schools have been underfunded for years in Colorado. So this isn't something where teachers just like, oh, you know what? We finally took a look at the books. And you know what? Damn it. All these schools are underfunded. We didn't even know. You know what? So what we're going to do is we're going to strike in a few days. Okay? Nah, this is a situation that has played itself out through a long period of time. And teachers are finally just fed up with it, as are teachers all across the country in different states, and they want to do something about it so that they can enact some change, so that they can set up a situation where children are being allowed to be taught the right way, and that the teachers are actually getting a fair salary. It just seems like this is
simple. It seems like it's simple. It's a simple solution in search of something more complicated. That's what it seems like to me. It's a simple solution that they have, and they're just trying to search for some complicated way to get around it.
Damn it, them teachers making too much sense.
But see, again,
throw them in jail.
But then again, like, would the teachers even have to go this route if their needs have been met over the last 2 decades? Would they have to go this route? We talk about this in regard to all issues. Like, would people have to, I guess, take time off other day and go to extremes and protest? Again, this applies to everything.
Right. If
their needs are being met. The same thing with Flint, Michigan. You know what I'm saying? Would people be going up there under threat of being arrested in these town halls? Would that even be necessary if their water wasn't, poisoned? Would it be necessary for people to have gone out and protested the Dakota Access Pipeline if their grievances have been met? So it's the same thing here. If their grievances have been, I guess, addressed or taken seriously, we would not have gotten to the point where they're walking out or having to take personal days, just to address something that is apparent.
And again, the common thing among all these states is that schools are underfunded, like ridiculously underfunded, and teachers are not being paid fair wages. Like, they're all in the bottom 40s of average salaries for teachers across the country. Like, that's, if it's not hitting you now, it's going to, you've paved the way for this situation to at some point metastasize and say, like, there's going to be an eruption. Like, teachers going to get fed up to a certain point where they're going to make a move.
But I really wonder if we would even be here. Would we even be having this conversation if that profession was dominated by males, dominated by men? Do you think we would be here right now? You think if teaching was a profession that was dominated by men, do you think that we would even
Well,
there would be an inkling.
Well, probably because men are historically, paid less than women. Historically, men are paid less than women, so no doubt this would be the same. It'd be the same.
No.
It wouldn't be the same. No. Male-dominated careers and professions.
I think there would be some assurance that teachers would be getting paid handsomely and compensated for their work if it was a male-dominated profession. I mean, it's an assumption, and I am speculating, but I think it's a fair assumption.
It's fair speculation. Yeah, I mean, we don't have any numbers to back it up at this point. We didn't research that point, but I think it's fair speculation. Let's see, it's 9, 10. Let's leave the others. Yeah.
For Thursday.
Yeah,
we can leave the others for Thursday.
All right, so we have reached the end of the content part of the program. So
that flew by, man. Usually Tuesdays I feel like they go slower because we had a whole weekend.
That's true.
It just feels like it takes a more to rev up.
Right.
So it feels like it goes longer. Then Thursday is the one that usually go by quick.
Yeah, real quick. Yeah.
But today went by pretty quick, man.
All right, so we're gonna open this up for callers. If anybody has anything that they would like to say on air, any questions that they have, any disparaging comments about the Democratic Party or anything like that, any disparaging comments about the Republican Party trying to jail teachers. I mean, this is
any comments about maybe a particular progressive or no longer progressive journalist now repping Trump. That'll be a good thing to talk about. I mean, your boy is just like plastered his Twitter, like his what do you call it, the cover photo?
Yeah,
the cover.
What in the world is going on?
Yo, maybe you
Hold up, you know what? Let me I don't know what's going on here. You know what? People are already in here. That's what it is.
Yeah.
I think we have some video chatting.
There must be some video chat going on. But see, it's not X'd out. It's not X'd out.
Yeah.
You see that? And that's the first time I've seen two names in there.
Yeah.
See? iPhone. That's the first time I've not seen numbers, but names and whatever device. So we have an iPhone that's called. So it's probably Siri wanting to talk about some stuff. It just says iPhone. So
what's up with that?
So we already got. It looks like we have 3 people in the chat. So we'll take those in the order that they came. So if you just bear with us, we'll also try to keep the calls short as well. Just keep that in mind.
We can actually put them on screen too.
Yeah. So keep that in mind, folks. If you're calling, we're gonna try to get through these calls.
All right.
All right, folks. Right. Oh, we got the iPhone left. We have. It looks like we have.
Down. What the heck is going on here? Okay, hold on. Let me put the. Oh, why do we mute it? Okay, there we go. Make sure the audio is on. Okay, looks like everything's good. Let's bring them. That's us. All right, who's first? All right, Mercedes. But I don't see nobody there.
So can make sure everybody can hear us? Because I don't know. Because this is a little new thing. So can y'all hear me right now?
All right.
So it looks like we have 3 people right now.
We're gonna go to Farzan because that's the. Hold up, you know what? There's Mercedes Hill.
Yeah.
What is? Am I just like hopping on? Like
it looks like people are just hopping on and hopping off.
Yeah, I don't really understand what's going on here.
Yeah, I don't understand what's going on.
How did people just pop on?
Because this is we're doing it a little bit differently. Before,
hold up, I did put the right number in there, right?
Before we were kind of just handling calls. So
yeah, now something's going on because I got
so this this doesn't look like kind of the same environment.
No, it doesn't. I gotta.
Before we would just have a call log to a call list of people who calling in, and they fill up the waiting room.
Oh, you know what? No. All right, everybody bear with us a second. I think the wrong number's up in there.
But still, even if the wrong number was up in there, it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't we wouldn't just get.
All right.
Oh, so I guess.
Yeah, it looks totally different now.
Yeah.
That was strange. That was strange. All right, I think it's all set up now. Yeah, it's all set up now. Okay, so we don't have any callers yet. So, you know what we could talk about? And maybe that will prompt some discussion. I want to ask this. I want to ask this question. What do you think Dem exit means? Like, what is your definition of what Dem exit is? Like, to you, is it that you don't support the Democratic Party anymore? Is it that you withdrew your association with the Democratic Party? Is it that you will never
vote for a Democrat ever, no matter what?
Exactly. Like, what exactly is the definition to you? Because I'm very interested in that. But we do have a caller now, area code 443.
We're going to discuss what prompted that a little bit later.
Oh, yeah.
Question.
No doubt. All right, caller, you're on the air with LTNB. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
What's going on? It's Court.
What's going on, Court? You would think I would recognize that number by now, but I sure don't, man.
Oh, it's all good, man. I'm gonna keep calling y'all until you get so big that you can't take my calls no more. But I'm gonna keep calling y'all.
Well, we appreciate that, man. What's on your mind?
Well, I'm gonna throw my 2 cents in on that question you asked about the Dem exit. Okay. So my opinion is the Democratic Party is engineered to look weak. And the Authoritarian Party, which is the conservative Republican Party, they're engineered to be the enforcers, and they're engineered to be strong. In a slave society, you have worker bees, and then you have elite like bees. You have bees that control the colony. And that's why you see people getting disgusted with Democrats, because they are programmed to be weak. Like if you think about the tactics that they use and then the stuff that they say, none of it goes together. It all contrasts. Bernie Sanders was the first Democrat, and he wasn't the first because he's been around since the 90s. And he's been doing the same stuff that because it's designed. If you ask for help, it's weak. If somebody has to help you do something, it's weak. Like, that's what the whole independent mindset of America is. And the Democratic Party, I mean, I understand why they got civil rights through in the 60s. I understand that it was for personal gain and that it was for vote. I understand that. But you would think that under all that callousness, there was some human heart ticking that would be like, maybe it is the right thing to do so that we don't discriminate against 13% of the population. But that's not how people behave, and that's what people see with the Democratic Party. And that's kind of scary because that means people are going to get harder, and you're not going to see the kind of logical interlocutor type conversations between liberal people and conservative people. It's going to get worse and worse. I mean, they just had I don't know if you guys followed this. There was a Colorado incident where this guy was making this explosive called the Mother of Satan, and they had to burn the entire apartment block down. And the cops were like, oh, we saw some white supremacist literature, but we don't think he was into that sort of thing. And his pastor was like, well, he was a loner, and he had that funny scent coming from his apartment, but we didn't think anything of it. It's so, one day somebody is going to set one of these things off. It's going to be another Timothy McVeigh, and I don't think people have patience to deal with the Democratic Party's bullshit. I just don't think they do. Nobody can really sit down and actually come to grips with the fact that not only is the party that says the decent thing weak, but they don't have any, there's just really no reason for them to change. They get paid to be weak. So, I mean, I don't know what to tell you on that, but that's what I think. I think that's what the Dem exit is, and I think, and it's going to be spoiled too, because, the whole Bernie bro thing, I mean, that was just a travesty. And you got this senator who's been trying to fight for the little guy for 30 years. I mean, you'd figure, well, damn, the Democratic Party's been waiting for another Kennedy, but nah, we're gonna try to sweep him under the rug by not giving him any airtime, and then when he gets up there and everybody can see that he's doing a great job, we're just gonna sweep it out from under him. It makes you look weak. It makes you look completely, utterly weak. You can't take your rock star and propel them to victory against one of the worst candidates in American history, really?
Well, they can't do that because if they allowed Bernie Sanders to go forward, then that just highlights how horrible they are. Because Bernie Sanders fights for the little guy, and that highlights how they have not fought for the little guy for years, for decades.
Imagine how that would look. They would have to obstruct their own party's president. That's what they would have to do. They would have to be obstructionists. But obviously they couldn't do it like obviously. They would have to do it on the sly.
Which they did.
But I think kind of what prompted Will's question is after whatever I guess people define as a Dem exit, right? Whatever that may be, because it's going to be different for everyone. What is that based on? It's based on not just kind of courts analysis about the Democratic Party, I guess, being tailored and designed to be weak, but what's behind that? Like, what defines that weakness? What are the traits and the characteristics of that weakness? Those traits and characteristics, yeah, exactly. Those traits and characteristics, we talked about them all throughout the election cycle. We talked about them when we critiqued Hillary Clinton and the Democratic Party. So if with those traits, like kind of, I guess, being illustrated throughout our commentary, and not just our commentary, like commentary across the board as far as other progressive channels. With that being the case, Dem exit is principle-based, right?
Yes.
Okay. So if that's the case, what should be the solution to that once people Dem exit? What is a logical solution? Is the logical solution, if you are Dem exiting for, I don't know, these 5 things, the logical thing to do would not go to the other party, regardless of what they were fashioned or tailored or designed to do, if they possess those same things, whatever, how many of those things are. They possess those same traits and characteristics. The logical consequence of Dem exit is not GOP.
No, it's definitely not.
I think that's why Will prompted that question about the Dem exit. It wasn't just about how people feel about the Democratic Party. It is where people kind of gravitated to afterwards, and that is something we have been seeing. Go ahead, man. Go ahead. We ain't got nobody on.
A lot of independents, I believe, in this country are conservatives that don't want the racist brand, right? They don't want to see the social conservatism. And they're pretty into fiscal conservatism, but the only reason why they're into it is because it doesn't really necessarily hurt their class. It doesn't really hurt their demographic. But when you think about a Dem exit, like where will people go? People will try to start progressive parties, and they may do well. But I honestly think that what you're going to see, especially after Trump gets done doing what he's going to do, it's not going to be so easy to go out and just voted away or legislated away. Like, you have to think about how deeply rooted this corruption is now. Like, it isn't even in the 80s, maybe in the 80s, like if Carter had done well and that we didn't have the Iran like hostage crisis and something like that, maybe, but not now, man. Like now, when people exit, there are going to be a lot of independents who lean conservative. You're going to see a lot more like moderate conservatives, maybe, after the 2018 is going to be pretty bad for the Republican Party. I think it's going to be pretty bad because they've really stepped in at this time, and like people know what they're looking at. But the sea change is going to have to come up where you see after this next midterm, you have to see where people are leaning and what the Democrats do with that mandate. If the Democrats go and they do the mealy mouth, weak, tepid type deal, then it's going to be a Dem exit, and it's probably not going to be to a more liberal America. It's probably not.
Mike pointed out that the solution to Dem exit is not to GOP enter. Okay, and we see ever since Bernie Sanders lost the Democratic nomination, we've seen a lot of people floundering. They're going different places, but what we're seeing too much is that people are so incensed with the Democratic Party that they feel like job number one is to kill the Democratic Party. And they feel the strategy that we have to employ to kill the Democratic Party is to never vote for a Democrat, no matter if they are progressive, like if they're a justice Democrat, if they're running with a brand new Congress, whatever. You can't vote for them because if you do, you're complicit in the war party. Well, one of the war parties. So you can't vote for a Democrat. You have to do something else. You have to vote for an independent or a Green Party person. You even can vote Republican, which it just doesn't make sense. If we want to kill the Democratic Party, then what that means is that you would just strengthen the Republican Party. And if you actually were able to kill the Democratic Party, how could anybody really fight against the Republican Party when they are going to be in charge of everything?
Exactly. It doesn't make any sense. You're actually going to create like
a harder
battle, an uphill battle from that point. What makes independent? I wouldn't say independence, but any third party think that somehow they will be magically visible because the Democratic Party.
It's a Horatio Algiers equivalent of the political spectrum. You know, if you work hard enough and you pull yourself up by the boots, it's that same garbage. You know, you can do it on your own. You don't have to. You can just come out of nowhere, out of left field, and it'll happen for you. I mean, the people who think that they can just vote the Democratic Party out of existence are delusional. Now, people will leave the Democratic Party, but you can't. You're not going to vote them out of existence. First of all, the corporations are never going to allow that to happen. They have to keep their narrative. And second of all, even if
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Finish. Because I got something.
But second of all, even if you took out the Democratic Party, right, you're still going to have people who are poor, and you're still going to have people who are going to need advocates. It's just not going to happen. Like the Democratic Party, while they are corrupt, they still do advocate. They still do some advocating. I mean, the Republicans are just lost.
And there's one major flaw in looking at it that way, because when people say the Democratic Party and talking about destroying them, what are they actually talking about? They're talking about the apparatus, the organization, and those kind of elites that make up party insiders and those organizers that are directly involved in the party. Unfortunately, people are leaving out what the Democratic Party actually is and comprised of, and that is people. So you cannot say destroy the Democratic Party without having in mind or keeping in mind that we have millions upon millions upon millions upon millions of voters that vote for these Democratic candidates, establishment candidates in particular. So if you look at how many votes Hillary Clinton got, yes, you can say some of those are attributed to people who drifted from Bernie to her, but a hefty chunk of those, and she got the popular vote too. So a hefty chunk of those are I would call the Democratic Party voters. So you can't attack some sort of apparatus or organization and think that exposing them is all that's necessary when we have a large electorate that is voting for them. So when people talk about Dem exit and destroying the Democratic Party and they don't have the voters in mind, then they're only trying to tackle one side of the issue. The voters are still there.
Let me make some news, all right? Let me unearth some news, all right? The Democratic Party is better than the Republican Party. We might have lost like the whole audience, man. We might have lost everybody. But just by stating that, we might lose everybody. But that's the reality. That doesn't mean that I support the Democratic Party. That doesn't mean that I think that. That doesn't mean that I support the Democratic Party. That doesn't mean that I heard myself. Court, you got.
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah, I'm here. Right. I'm here.
Yeah. All right, but yeah, that doesn't mean that I support the Democratic Party or that I believe that the Democratic Party is honest in its intentions and that they really do appeal to, you know, what's good for the American people, what's good for people all across the globe, and they're here to actually represent. This doesn't mean any of that. I said like a long time ago, this was after the general election, after which Donald Trump won. I said that there was no more me caring about political parties. Like I didn't really care about it too much back then, but I'm never going to advocate for the Democratic Party or the Green Party or whatever party. I mean, I'm never going to advocate for a party in this political climate. I'm going to advocate for individual candidates. Now, if they run as Democratic, okay, fine. I mean, I don't care. If you are a progressive, if you are running for the right reasons, if you're not taking corporate money, if you're not going to be bought out by the system, then I'm going to support you. I'm going to support you so that you get in there and that you hopefully create more, like that you kind of lead the way to more of people just like you getting into Congress and really changing the game up. Now, is that going to happen in 2018? Is that going to happen in 2020, 2022, 2024? It's not going to happen for a very long time. A lot of people have this misconception that with the losses that the Democratic Party has suffered going back to 2014, that if they suffer losses in 2018, then somehow that's going to set up some kind of situation where Democratic voters are going to say, you know what? Oh, man, this ship seems like it's going down. You know what? Let's try something new. Let's vote for the Green Party or something else. And that's not going to happen.
That's not going to happen. Why? Because there's too much splintering going on.
Well, that's not the only reason.
With those third parties. There's too much splintering. So it's not that the third parties like have no power. They just have no collective power.
But the one thing that you were talking about with Democratic voters, like to kill the Democratic Party, like you were saying, you'd have to kill Democratic voters, and they're not going anywhere. So you would have to change how they vote. And if in 2016, when you had such polarizing candidates in Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, that Jill Stein only got 1% of the vote, what do you think is going to happen in 2020 and going for? There's no way the Green Party and on the horizon, there's no way they're going to command a significant amount of support. It's just not going to happen.
And yeah, this pretty much it's half-hearted to just kind of focus on.
You gotta like staunch the bleeding, and I think that's what most Americans don't get. There is no miracle, man. Like there is no like everybody gets into these like that's why America is one of the only developed industrialized countries that's religious like it is. They have these ideas in their head that you could just pop one day and all of a sudden it's like sunshine and rainbows, and that's not how shit works. In the real world, what happens is you fuck something up and you have to fix it, and it takes a little bit. Yeah, you don't just like poof and it's over. It takes a little bit. You can't just say, oh, let's just vote all the Democrats out of office and we'll magically come up with a Green Party win or come up with some new party that everybody's going to get behind. The reason why I voted for the Democratic Party last time around is because of both parties. From what I've studied in American history, they've flipped. But the current one that has my particular best interest at heart, right, or at least says it any damn way, at least says it, right, is the Democratic Party. Like if I look at the Republicans, they're racist, they hate poor people, they exploit people, they think it's okay to exploit people as long as they're not your family. But if you look real close, they'll exploit their family too. I mean, it's ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like to think that you're just going to start a movement that eliminates the second half of that coin. Yeah, I mean, I wish it was less corrupt. I really do. I really wish people would look at Hillary Clinton for what she was, and I really wish people would look at Bill Clinton for what he was and what third way politics and what that's about. You know, and but nobody really wants to listen to that. Only a few of us understand it takes work to turn the ship around. I mean, like I said, I hope it doesn't get bad. I mean, I really do. But like with the way Trump is running the country, like he's destroyed faith in institutions. You can't have a conversation with him. You can't have a conversation about reality anymore. You have to be hypersensitive about what you say to people, because you don't know exactly how much they've been propagandized and just how on edge they are. It's a powder keg. You've got people out there who are shooting up schools, and they're shooting up Waffle Houses, and they're shooting up anything that and these people aren't being described as terrorists. They're being described as, oh, they snapped. You know what I mean? See how dangerous it gets? But you can't just throw the baby out with the bathwater on this one. You're not going to get rid of the Democratic Party. You got to fix it. It's going to take time. So you got to fix it.
We agree, Court. We appreciate you calling in again, man. Dropping some knowledge on us.
All right, guys.
To this next call.
Y'all have a good one.
All right, you too, man. All right, the next caller is from the 250. Caller, can you hear us?
Hello?
Hello, you're on the phone with LTMB.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, hello. I'm calling with a question.
Okay.
So I'm calling from
What's
Canada.
your name?
Claire.
Claire.
Yeah.
Claire.
Yeah. This actually, I think, may dovetail with the last conversation you had, but more importantly, probably with a show you had a couple of weeks ago, and it's about the third party thing. So in Canada, we have a number of parties, right? And we talk a lot about strategic voting here. And what I hear coming out of the States, which I guess some people call it strategic voting, but I think it's a little bit different, is the idea where, for instance, if you're in a solidly blue state, then you can, vote with your conscience, right?
Right.
In Canada, it takes a different kind of form. So that I guess that's strategic, but I think it's more just like now you're given license to do what your heart tells you or what your mind tells you, right? Which is a little bit different. In Canada, what we have is 4 parties, right? One of which is only in Quebec, so I'll leave that one out. And the other 3 are the Conservatives, the Liberals, and the NDP. And ostensibly, the Liberals are in the middle, and the NDP is leftist, and the Tories are obviously to the right. And so what we talk a lot about is this idea of the divided left, whereby what happens is, if you're in a riding where it's kind of a toss-up between the Liberals and the Tories, a lot of folks who would vote for the NDP end up voting for the Liberals in order to get that seat to the Liberals over the Tories, right? So I guess my question overall is this. When we're talking about the idea of the rise and how beneficial it would be to have a viable third party in the United States, which I'm on board with for what it's worth, just because it sounds like a nightmare just having the Republicans and Democrats as choices, right? But I'm wondering to what extent the conversation or how much thinking has gone into what the real implications of that would be, or how that would work out in terms of, for instance, let's say you had a relatively strong Green Party and a weakened Democratic Party and a Republican Party that still commands, say, whatever the figure is, around 25 or 30%, whether that would actually be a way of guaranteeing Republican rule in the future, regardless of changing demographics. And I guess that's basically my question.
Well, that's actually a legitimate question, and we kind of touched on that a bit on our broadcast because our political apparatus is not set up for a third party, whether state or federally. Our electoral system is not set up for that. So if you have a Green Party that is kind of a offshoot or a split off from people who lean Democrat, then all of what's going to happen is Republicans as a collective will kind of maintain control because of that split off.
There's no serious thought being done about there's no serious thought that's being done about the emergence of a third party. People talk about it. I think everybody wants to see that reality. I think we want to see third parties and fourth parties and fifth parties. I think we all want to see that because of competition, so that we don't just get stuck with one ideology within one party. Like nobody wants that. Everybody wants more options in politics. I think that's good for everybody. But like you were just saying, our political apparatus isn't set up for that, especially in the presidential race. So if we had just another party, then nobody, if that third party was actually competitive, then nobody would actually get to 270 electoral votes. Nobody would get there because it would all be split up. Maybe somebody got 50, maybe somebody got 100 something, maybe somebody got close to 200. Nobody would get to the required amount to win the presidency.
And depending on who's in power, guess what would happen? Exactly.
The House of Representatives picks who's going to be the next president. So whoever got electoral votes would be, within their options to choose from. But if the Republicans are in charge of the House, then guess who they're going to pick? They're going to pick the Republican. If Democrats are in charge of the House, then they're going to pick the Democrat. It's just...
So whether a third party is actually kind of a viable option, and not just a viable option, like viable competition.
Yeah.
Kind of their platform is not only visible, but it's kind of on equal playing field and being discussed nationally. That's not the only issue. Even with that being the case, if there's not some sort of change in how we elect our officials, that doesn't matter, and it's just going to result in kind of what you suggested and kind of what Will just highlighted just now.
And see, I don't know how you change that in America as well, because back in the 2016 election, we talked about the Commission on Presidential Debates. That's on the board on the commission is just Democrats and Republicans. That's it. And they set the rules, and that's how they're able to keep third parties like the Green Party or the Libertarian Party. They're able to construct these rules and say, well, if you're not hitting this certain percentage in the polls, then you can't be on the debate stage. So if we were able to get to a place where there is a competitive third party, would the Democrats or the Republicans care?
Would they welcome in with open arms?
No.
Would they just be welcoming?
Like, nobody will get to 270, but who's ever in charge of the House would pick whatever party for president. And the Democrats, like, if the Democrats lost it that way, they wouldn't be like, well, no, we got to do something about this. We got to get rid of the Electoral College.
Yeah, they wouldn't do that.
If they're not in power, then they'd rather the Republicans to be in power than the third party.
And there was somebody in the comment section that said something. It was probably like an hour ago. And I was like, hell yeah. It was like, because you mentioned the Democratic Party losing, and somebody, I don't know who it was, I wish I could remember, they said, like, losing is not going to change the Republican Party.
No.
I mean, a Republican Party, Democratic Party.
Right.
Losing will not change that.
No. So, yeah,
I guess that's... Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I mean, I guess that's kind of what, like, because at one point I thought, well, maybe this idea of pushing for the Green Party is to try and to push the Democratic to the left by basically saying, no, my bad, but sorry, that's my daughter.
That's all right.
By basically saying, like, shape up or you're not going to get our votes, right? In a much more direct and quantifiable way, like how many votes the Green Party got, right? But then you seem to be saying, which I'm tempted to agree with, right? That may not actually succeed, in which case, like, I don't mean to sound defeatist, but I'm not sure what the point of like advocating for voting green really ends up being. Maybe it's as difficult and possibly impossible. It's advocating for, makes more sense to advocate for a change of electoral system so that you can have, a green or whatever, a family, I forgot what it's called, power family, party that's actually effective and viable. And even then, in the Canadian model, it's slightly better, right? In the sense that we often do have situations where we have a minority government, and that means that there's no one party that got the majority of votes, in which case they have to build a coalition, right? There's a number of other systems that have a mix, like in Spain, they have a mix of like proportional and non-proportional using lists, as in Germany. They also have a system like that, as far as I know. I'm by no means an expert. But, it seems to me like maybe that's step one, is I guess what I'm wondering now.
So in 2016, we supported Jill Stein from the Green Party. Now, I think people that supported her were under no illusions that she was actually going to win, or that she could actually win the presidential election. I don't think anybody fooled themselves into believing, oh yeah, she has a real chance. She might actually eclipse Donald Trump's and Hillary Clinton's votes. Nobody thought that. But we had, I guess, a goal in mind to where she could reach a certain amount of the vote so that the Green Party could get ballot access, federal matching funds. It could set a trend so that it would lead to a rise in the Democratic Party. It would lead to more people taking them seriously when it comes time to vote. So that was our motives. Going forward and seeing how 2016 shaped out, and she only got 1% of the vote. Going forward, and I'm talking about in national races, federal races, and you talk especially about the presidency. At this point, and it may disappoint some people, and I understand that. At this point, I cannot see myself voting for a third party in a presidential election. At this point, I just can't see it.
Because what would be the benefit?
The point, yeah.
Was the benefit.
But I guess that I'm wondering, systems... I know that you guys advocated for Jill Stein, and, all the power to you for that, right? Mm-hmm. Can I assume, am I right in thinking that the big advantage of that would be the increased funding, the access to debate, which would have increased her platform, right? And her access, like people would have had more access to the ideas that she and the Green Party had, and hopefully sway shift the Overton window a little bit. Because otherwise, I don't really, and I think those are good reasons, by the way, right? But otherwise, I just don't really see the point, because given even if you had an electoral system like ours, which is somewhat better in that it does allow for viable third or fourth parties, you still end up having a hegemony of the other two, right? And you end up having these really awful situations where people are specifically voting for a party they don't like, so as to avoid the other third party they hate even more. I guess that's kind of what I'm getting at. And it seems to me like maybe like the push may have to be more about, and I guess this is maybe one of those constitutional things. I have no idea what's involved in changing the electoral system. I know we've been talking about it forever, and that was one of Trudeau's pledges, which he's now not following through on, which is pissed off people no end, I think, right? But yeah, anyways, what can I say? I feel for you guys. As fucked up as our things are, as our electoral system is, yours sounds worse.
Yeah, it is much worse.
At
least you got options.
Yeah, exactly. I appreciate the political condolences.
Yeah, the sympathy.
I know
we need it.
Yes,
I do have a lot of that. All right. Well, look, thanks for taking my call. Appreciate it.
Thank you for
calling in, Claire.
Okay, great. Bye.
And I think the other half to what she's talking about is as far as like altering the political landscape or just the system. because the political landscape has to be altered too. And the other part of that is the same thing I was talking about with the Democratic Party. The people have to buy into that. There have to be enough people that are protesting for a system like that. Yeah. Not saying that, you know, our representatives will have a backbone in changing that, because right now, even though 90% of the people approve of universal background checks for firearms, Congress can't even. Congress can't even, you know, do something sensible. So, for a massive and comprehensive change, like kind of flipping over our electoral system, it's going to take people buying into it, not just our representatives. That's the other part of it. If people don't buy into a system like that kind of, I guess, grants equal opportunity to third parties and viable opportunities for third parties. If people ain't buying into that, and then I got to say, because you highlighted that when talking about Jill Stein and not her not being able to make headway and kind of get that percentage so she can receive those funds and that kind of increased visibility. So if that didn't happen in the 2016 election cycle, which was, I wouldn't say it was unprecedented election cycle, but it was a very polarizing election cycle. If it didn't happen then,
exactly. If we were going to get to a place where we actually did revamp the whole electoral process, we would need one of those Catalonia type protests where there's like 700, 800,000 people.
Whoa. 700, 8,000 what? What was that last word?
People,
not politicians.
No, yeah, we would need people actually standing up and protesting, like a large number of them getting off their asses and actually saying, look, this is what we want for our country. This is what we want. This is what we want for our political situation. Get it done or else. And we mean it. That's what we'd have to do, because we don't have the money. We don't have the money to run ads. Like we don't have the money to run ads and like appeal to other people, but we have our energy. We have our movement.
And Gene said with pitchforks.
Yeah.
So we got to come with pitchforks.
Yeah, we got to come with pitchforks too. There was a question earlier, not too long ago, by Malicious. Malicious asked, so if Hillary ran again, you'd vote for her. She said something like that. If Hillary runs again, you'll vote for her. No. I'm like 99% sure. I can't, let me put it like this, okay? I can't foresee any situation where I would cast a vote for Hillary Clinton. I think that would be way too nauseating for me.
Yeah, I think you would spontaneously combust and vomit. Like it wouldn't come out your mouth. It would just like you would spontaneously combust and it would just be vomit everywhere. Like it would come out everywhere. It would
see. Let me say something about Hillary, okay? By no means is Hillary special, and when I say that, there's lots of people like Hillary Clinton. Yeah.
She is the stickiest of the icky. She's the stickiest.
The devilish of the devil. The devilish of the evil. I mean, what do you want to say? I don't know. She's not special, okay? And we've said that before. There's many Democratic politicians just like her in the past and probably currently as well. The problem with Hillary Clinton is that she had scandals on scandals on scandals on scandals.
The way you said that, I thought you say stacks on stacks on stacks, or racks on racks.
Exactly.
Or racks on racks.
I mean, she had corruption. I mean, she had all these positions, all these previous quotes that were just horrible that you could focus in on. And to make matters worse, she was going against Bernie Sanders, who was pretty much like the exact opposite of her, somebody that had a track record of actually standing up for people, trying to represent regular people. So,
and actually was kind of a shame. She had become too much of a robot to where she couldn't even put on a Bernie Sanders mask.
No, she couldn't. She absolutely could not. Because she tried.
She tried.
She tried. She couldn't do it.
She couldn't even do it.
No.
And that's a shame. It's almost like it's embedded, ingrained in her, and it kind of like supports what Court was talking about.
Right. So
like they're breeded to be like that.
Exactly. So Hillary Clinton, again, in 2016, she made it impossible for a large number of people to vote for her.
Kamala.
Exactly.
Kamala.
How different is Senator Harris, than Hillary Clinton? How different? I think the only real difference is that she doesn't have the same amount of scandals.
I was going yeah, same amount of scandal. I thought you were going to say same amount of melanin, but no. I was okay. That works too.
Yeah, that works too. But yeah, virtually they're probably about the same. I mean, Kamala, she supported Hillary Clinton for president. It's just that, again, Hillary Clinton was so toxic. She was so toxic of a candidate that people just would not even go anywhere near her.
So there was, and this is where I think people are not being honest about this. It wasn't just like I guess people weighing, I guess, her political metrics and her, I guess, her record and whatnot.
It wasn't just that.
It wasn't just that. I do think that she invoked a visceral
feeling
and emotion because of all that. And I think that pushed her over the top as far as her unfavorability.
And then, it was the whole optics of the situation, too, because she mocked Bernie Sanders supporters. She mocked progressives. She claimed that, like, I don't got to do any work. Look at all the votes I got. Like, that's why there was such a visceral reaction.
Somebody mentioned in the chat that she wasn't charismatic. And that illustrates that.
Right.
And not charismatic like, like hey, go, not like that, but like tone deaf and
like you couldn't identify with
her. And like you said, she kind of oozed this kind of elitism.
Yes.
And she displayed that by being condescending towards Bernie supporters. And most of her contributors were like that too.
She was just bad news
as far as media goes.
Yeah, she was just very bad news. Again, she was toxic as a candidate. So I can't see myself.
That was a long answer, dog.
Yeah, I know, man. That's I just got to explain because I can't even foresee a situation where I could cast a ballot for her. Now, these other Democratic politicians,
what if they're but if they're a Democrat, does automatically mean they're connected to Hillary Clinton?
It doesn't mean that they're automatically connected. You have to wait. I mean, look, I'm a big supporter of letting somebody's records stand on their own, right? I'm not, just because Kamala Harris supported Hillary Clinton doesn't mean that I automatically just have to cast her aside and be like, there's no way I can even consider her. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to weigh her on her own merits, like the things that she has done, the things that she has said.
That's already no for me. It's already no for me. You just said the thing that she's done, which is a record, and the thing that she said.
But you have to throw in
the other candidate.
Yes.
So you have to. It's like, so it's a scale.
Yes.
It's a scale. Oh Lord, malicious. Whoa. Like you just gave me like. You just give me.
Oh hell! See, I don't know why you picking the DWS for real.
You know you went
Come on,
there.
man. Come on.
That's a safe word.
Come on.
That's only a safe word. You only use that.
Like don't like just throw out like the most toxic candidates because like there's no way.
She's like on the same toxicity level.
She is. But I like I said, I have to tell you that the potential candidates that might become the next Democratic nominee. If we're gonna honestly, at this point, 2018, April 24th, 2018, if I'm comparing them to Donald Trump, I'm sorry, Donald Trump is much worse. That's just my opinion right now. Maybe more is unearthed by 2019, 2020, and I'll have the same visceral reaction that I have towards Hillary Clinton. Maybe that's possible. Maybe some speeches will come like you how many speeches you gave? How much? 250,000? What, really? You got an email server investigation as well? What? Like you got like,
yeah, we don't like this situation we find ourselves in.
No.
But you just don't kind of like you just don't like just take your ball and just, I'm going home, I'm gonna get off the court.
Yeah.
If you're going to stay and play, then you kind of have to, if that's what you choose to do, if we're going to kind of play in this game and play in this system,
right,
then
you have to be real about it.
You have to be realistic
now,
about it.
Now, I will say that many people said the same thing in 2016, okay? There were many people saying that, look, you have to be an adult about this. You have to be grown up. Look, it's going to be Hillary or Trump. You can't just throw your vote away. You can't, do this protest vote for a third party candidate, Jill Stein or Gary. You can't do that. Come on, let's be adults about this. Trump is too dangerous. Now, we fought back against that narrative again, not because we thought Jill Stein could win. We had an objective. We had a goal that we had in mind that we thought was realistic. Like, again, these were probably the two most polarizing candidates, presidential candidates in history. If at any time a third party can rise up and make some noise, it was that time. But what it taught us is that we are nowhere close to actually having another party contend in this duopoly. It's just, we're nowhere near that reality.
Gene asked a valid question. He says, why are we playing this game? I don't think that's a proper question, because we were born into this game. We were born into the game. Make it sound like it was we gangsters or something.
I was born with a basketball in my hand.
I'm saying, man. I was born twisting up C's, but no, like, no, like, yeah. I guess maybe the context was a little loose, but yeah, I think what I meant by that was we're kind of born into it. You know what I'm saying? We're kind of like. We kind of inherited it.
Mm-hmm.
So we either have to just completely abandon it or change it. There's really only two choices. You either abandon it or seek change through it. So, either abandon it or seek change through it. That's
so. We said many times before the 2016 presidential election and after that we know who the Democratic Party is. There's no way you can reform the Democratic Party. Okay? We said that many times. I still will. I kind of still believe the same way, but I have to add something else on that end. Okay? I don't believe that you can just vote in progressive candidates. Just keep nominating, voting them, have them run, have them win elections, get in there and, make a change. I don't believe that is possible whatsoever, because they'll get swallowed up. Even if they maintain their integrity, they get swallowed up by the corruption. It outnumbers them. They will make literally a minute amount of difference. But what I do think is possible is if the Democratic Party is likely to change, it will be because somebody's at the top initiating that change, like a progressive candidate, like a progressive like Bernie Sanders. If there is a President Bernie Sanders, I think there's a good chance that the Democratic Party will start to look a little different. It will still take a long time for the Democratic Party to actually look like something that represents people.
I think that there was this assumption that like there's going to be like this snap out of it moment.
Oh no, it's not going to be instant. It's not going to be within 2 years, 4 years. Hell, it may not even be in 8 years.
And I think like again, clarification is necessary for what the context is behind what you mean by the Democratic Party changing. You're not talking about the current membership or current people that represent, the establishment somehow, I guess, changing their colors. You're talking about the party changing as in who gets in there. You're talking about the faces of the face changing.
Right.
So you're not talking about the people who are there now, or the people that represent a particular attitude actually changing. Because like someone in the comment section said, losing is not going to change them.
No, it doesn't.
So losing is not going to change those individuals who court said are breeded to be like that.
Right.
So what you mean by change is there's different people coming in.
Well, the top person. Like again,
once that top person is there.
Yeah, once the top person there is, then they will be able to kind of lead the change that we need within the Democratic Party. Now, Bernie Sanders understood that the only way that we could get there is through people. Because I think I've brought up this interview before. He did an interview with Chris Matthews back in 2016. Matthews was trying to hit him with all the, how you gonna do this? How you gonna do this? This is unreasonable. You can't do this. You can't do this. Bernie Sanders said, look, I'll be the president of the United States, okay? I have the power of the voice, the power of the purse, right? So I'll be able to tell the American people, hey, you voted me in here for a reason, right? You want this? You want universal? Universal health care? You got to tell them. You got to stand up and actually demand it. You got to vote out these people that won't give it to you. You want universal background checks? Same thing. You want tuition-free college education? Same damn thing. So it's going to take people, which we always talk about. It starts with people. That's at the root level. People. You have to actually get up and become an activist. You have to. If we want to enact change, you have to activate yourself.
Well, I mean, that's exactly what, let's see, what Gene says. Yeah, democratic culture is too deeply in the people. I mean, that essentially that's what our argument is based off of, and what you just explained in regard to Bernie Sanders' message.
Look, it's a long road, man. Whether Bernie Sanders or somebody like Bernie Sanders actually becomes president of the United States, it will be a long road regardless.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's not like Bernie Sanders is not a magic pill.
No. Yeah.
So even if he did get up in there, it would take some time.
Think about what they did to Barack Obama, okay? Now, a lot of that was because the dude was black, and we have to understand that. But there will be that level of obstructionism.
It would be more, I think. I think
Bernie
it would
Sanders.
be more. I think it would be more.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know why?
Because he would be he would be stuck between like a rock and a hard place. However you say who represents the rock and the hard place, whether it be Democrats or Republicans, it doesn't matter. But that's what he would be stuck in between.
They will obstruct the process more. What you're suggesting is that Bernie Sanders is a real progressive. He won't just cater to the needs of big business and Wall Street and all like that. Obama did.
That would fuck everything up.
Exactly. So Bernie Sanders would be far more of a threat than Barack Obama ever was. Again, long road. No matter what happens, long road. But I'm Dem exit to me means that I understand what the Democratic Party is, and I don't support what they are. It does not mean that I won't vote for a Democrat in the future. That is not what that means to me. And it does not mean that I will say the Democratic Party is the number one evil and the number one job, our number one responsibility to take out. And I'll do that in any method that I have. I'll use any instrument to destroy the Democratic Party.
But see, even if it's like I guess well-intentioned, right? And it's based on facts, and it's based on like a pretty sound rationale about the Democratic Party. That doesn't matter, because you actually putting energy into something when you tearing something down, when you could be putting energy into building something. And I think that's my issue with it. Like, why are you putting so much energy into something, tearing down something? Why not just put that energy into building something?
Because
tearing down something that's not, again, it's half-hearted. And when I say it's half-hearted, I don't mean it's like it's not genuine. I just mean it's half-hearted because you're you're not going to tear down the voting base.
Look, I keep telling you this, man. The boo-boo,
not healed yet.
It's not healed.
The boo-boo is like it hasn't healed. It looks like it hasn't closed at all.
No, it's still bleeding.
Matter of fact, it's like Muggs. Like it feels like people acting like Muggs is pouring lemon juice in there. You know what I'm saying?
And again, we keep saying this, that we understand the pain that that you feel, that everybody feels from 2016, because no matter if it can be, like, I guess in a court of law proven, the shenanigans that the Democratic Party kind of went, the ways they try to obstruct the process and rig the process, like, no matter if it's actually on the record or not, like, we saw exactly what happened. Okay, we don't have to go into, like, we don't have to be like, oh yeah, they flipped votes and these machines, they rigged the machine. Like, we don't even have to say that, even though that's possible. It's possible those things happen, but we saw the closed primaries, we saw that the limited amount of debates, we saw the long lines in the closed precincts, we saw how they especially in New York, they like the date to change your registration to Democratic
was before
the first debate. So it's possible you didn't even know who Bernie Sanders was, and then that first debate you were like, oh snap, you know what, I like this dude, damn, I can't vote for him. It's like, no, like, they did that on purpose. They did that on purpose.
I wish we lived in a world where it was like choosing between candidates, or actually between parties, was like, me and my sister used to play this game, right? And we used to like try to stump each other, where we would just name sitcoms or just TV shows, sitcoms, cartoons, or whatever, and we would say, like, okay, which one would you want as your parent? And we would be like, we would try to stump each other. So the first one to get stumped and couldn't choose would lose. Or we had like this point system where it was like, somehow it was like, and obviously it's just like playing one-on-one basketball. You call your own fouls, but basically we, you had to make good points about which one you wanted to be your parent. And so, like, I wish our political system was like, let's say, having to choose between Claire Huxtable and Heathcliff Huxtable. That would be like, oh man, that's a toss-up. That would be wonderful. Man, I would love to just have to choose between those two.
Right.
But now, like, what we are living in, it feels like I'm having to choose between Al Bundy and Peggy Bundy. I had to choose between them two. That's my, you know what I'm saying? That's what I feel like.
But that's real, man. I mean, the lesser of two evils, man. That's just the way we have gone about American politics for decades. It's just, and I think, no, I don't think, I know. If you even go back, if you go back 20, 30 years and you see the Republicans back then, they are far more moderate than the Republicans in 2018. I mean, these Republicans have moved so far right, but what's even more like disgusting is that the Democrats, they haven't moved left. Like, it hasn't been an equal move. Like, they move right. Democrats are like, we're just gonna take like a half step. It's just,
yeah. I think June is right. June Valls is right. We don't have any checks and balances, and I think as much squabbling as Republicans and Democrats do amongst each other, I think it's a kind of it's a joint venture that they agree upon. Like, there's legitimate beef between us, but we're willing to deal with this beef as long as there's not enough checks and balances that will compromise how much money we can make. I think they're willing to deal with their squabbles. Like, and I think they do have legitimate squabbles between the two, but I think they are more than willing to keep those going. They're fine with keeping those going between the two, as long as those checks and balances actually don't come into play and affect how much money they can raise and how much money they can pocket.
As long as one party's in power, it's good.
You're willing to keep an enemy just so you can benefit, monetarily.
Because their one common enemy is the people. That's their one common enemy. And somebody like Bernie Sanders, he's on the side with us. You think they wouldn't band together to obstruct his process? Come on. So the only thing that would, I guess, penetrate their efforts is people, the will of the people, for us to actually stand up and be like, hey, you know what? You can have all the money in the world, but us together, you can't stop us. So that's what needs to happen. But this is only assuming Bernie Sanders actually runs in 2020. If he doesn't, then likely it'll be one of those four. And I think the most unlikely out of the four to run is probably Elizabeth Warren. I don't see it happening. I don't really see it happening. But I think I'm pretty sure Cory Booker will run. Pretty sure Kirsten Gillibrand will run. And I think there is no doubt in the world that Kamala Harris will run. There is no doubt.
No. That's why she went on the Breakfast Club. That's what that was. That was specifically designed to kind of as a platform to dip her toe into that water. You don't go on that. You don't go on the Breakfast Club if you don't have some sort of designs in mind. But before we check out, I want to highlight some super chat contributions. Got Gear Randon,
who is a patron on Patreon as well,
sliding us some dough. Got Aaron Barnett as well, sliding some dough. Both of those contributed $10. Actually, Aaron Barnett contributed $2 more, so that's $12.
And multiple super chatter.
Multiple super chatter. And we got Warren Fry, $5. Appreciate that. And we got Malicious coming in with a malicious amount of money.
Yeah, man.
And then kind of little side jokes.
Yeah, making me sweat. Yo, that's for that Hillary question, man. Straight up, man. I told you I think I said this on an earlier show that my mother asked me that same question. I was like, oh gosh, man, that just punched me right in the gut, man. Like I never even considered that, man. But she said she's done with politics. She said she's done with politics. She will never be a candidate again. So I'm holding her at a damn word.
When she said she's done with politics, you know what kind of context she was talking about. That's just like she's not running for something.
She better not.
But she's still going to be in politics.
Yeah, I don't care if she's in politics. Don't ever put your name on a ballot again. Please don't ever put your name on a ballot again. But yeah, that's some. I think that's the show for tonight.
That's some super chat cheese right there.
No doubt, man. Appreciate everybody that contributed. All of our patrons as well on patreon.com. We've been talking about the new software for a little bit. Probably in a couple more weeks, less than a month, we'll probably have the new software. And hopefully that'll make for a better, cleaner environment, maybe. Like we said, neither one of us has really done any work with the software yet. So there's going to be a learning process. So we just hope it's better, though. We hope it's better, and of course we'll be able to multi-stream as well to different platforms, so that'll be good. Because when we do it on another platform right now, whether it's Facebook or on Twitter, we have to use another computer, which the quality is definitely not as good, and
it's better to keep everything
together. Yeah. Just one source, just one computer. That'll clean
makes
it
it
up,
a little
man.
bit easier, and also everybody joining from each platform will be able to participate. Well, I'll say participate, but they'll have the benefit of seeing clips.
See everything.
They'll have the benefit of seeing the quotes we put up.
That's
so
right.
That helps out a bit. So they get the full experience, the broke broadcaster's experience.
So, everybody, thank you for being here tonight. We appreciate it. We appreciate all the support you always give us. Check out our store if you haven't already. shop.spreadshirt.com/LTMB if you want to get some LTMB gear. If you'd like to become one of our patrons on patreon.com, it's patreon.com/LTMB. You can check us out on Facebook as well. We
Facebook. don't even like saying that.
Yeah,
there's something that's definitely there's something I thought there was some company trying to do like a Facebook like thing. I can't remember who it was, but yeah, that's about to be like MySpace in about 5 to 10 years.
Straight up, at least for content creators. Yeah, for content creators, it's just nah, that's not where it's at. That's just not where it's at.
Turn into like a 4chan chat board.
Straight up, man. It's just like sometimes like I'll be like, oh yeah, this is something I want to post. Yeah, why even do it, man? You know, I might as well put it just on my personal page. Straight up.
Sometimes it actually gets more traction. It's weird.
It does. Yeah, I don't. Whatever. But anyway, hope everybody joins us for our next program. That's on Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You know, I actually thought about pushing that jump back to 6. The draft is at 8. The
NFL draft coming up on Thursday.
And, you know, the Jets pick number 3, and you know, well, you know what? We'll be on air if I hear that Josh Allen name. You gonna see me walk up or something? I'm gonna slam something down or something.
It's gonna be live.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be live. It's gonna be live.
Candid and live.
Straight. It's gonna be a real reaction.
So that just reminded me of that. Remember that show, Candid Camera? Smile, you're on Candid Camera. See, that was the original prank videos.
Yeah,
those
that
were
was
the original prank videos.
Yeah, the like G-rated ones.
The G-rated ones. True.
All right, we are out of here. Yeah, everybody check us out on Thursday. Thank you for our callers as well, Court and Claire. I think Claire called for the first time. I don't remember her ever calling before. Yeah, so thank you, Claire. We
From
reached Canada.
I know.
Yeah, we reached Canada. So that's I don't know if we have heard from Canada before, maybe?
I don't recall. I don't think we've had a call from Canada.
Yeah, I'm not sure that we've seen any calls from Canada before, but yeah, appreciate you calling. Appreciate all the comments in the chat as well. And we will see you all 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Thursday. All right, peace out.